The Immortal Stranger. Starting as a traveling merchant, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Stone Buddha Temple. Qi Meng was wearing a white dress, which made her skin look smooth and delicate, and she looked indescribably extraordinary. But when she said this, she smiled brightly without any temptation. Zhao Chen knew that she had really suppressed her previous state and was just joking. However, this girl's temperament was different from that of the women in Daxia. It was true that she would not be shy on similar topics. After subconsciously looking at Qi Meng, Zhao Chen also smiled and shook his head and said, "It is indeed a very tempting reward. But Qi Meng, your proposal is still a few years too early, and you still need to grow a little longer. Grow as long as your sister Xingcha." Hearing this, Qi Meng puffed up her mouth immediately, quite unconvinced. The North District of Human County, the residence of the Li family. This mansion occupies a very large area. There are a lot of spells around the courtyard wall, which are faintly emerging, forming a circle of protection. Even practitioners with successful spells are difficult to invade. However, divine power monks are an exception. At this moment, a divine wind rolled up a storm and entered directly from the gate of the Li family, blowing the team of armed soldiers guarding the gate to the ground and making it difficult for them to stand up. And those spells that were fired in response to the pressure hit the storm, just like a stream flowing into the sea, without splashing a ripple. However, this divine wind came quickly and went away quickly. Before a sword light that seemed to be condensed from the stars rushed from the inner house, it quickly dissipated, leaving only a line of words on the ground. Meeting at the Stone Buddha Temple at night. The tall forest hides the Brahma. The sword light dissipated, and the elegant and handsome blue lotus sword Li Fuan appeared. He stared at the words on the ground for a few times, and his eyebrows unconsciously wrinkled. Just 2 or 3 seconds later, another figure fell from the sky and landed not far from Li Fuan. He had white hair and a childlike face, and was energetic, but the most eye-catching thing was his protruding forehead, which was somewhat similar to the longevity star in myths and legends. This person was Zhao Shangxing, a priest sent by the imperial court to the county governor, known as the life-seeking longevity star, and also a supernatural monk. Old Hao. Because the other party was nearly 100 years old, Li Fuan greeted him first. Zhao Shangxing was not arrogant, and politely said, "Dao Yao Li, what happened here?" The monk who injured Che Yugang at the dock before appeared again, and left this line of words. While answering, Li Fuan used the means of sound transmission to order the servants in the mansion to seal off this yard first to prevent the news from leaking out. A night meeting at the Stone Buddha Temple. Gaolin Yin Fanshan. What does this mean? Did that person ask you to meet at the Stone Buddha Temple after nightfall? Zhao Shangxing glanced at the words on the ground and turned to Li Fuan. Do you want me to go with you? Thank you, Mr. Hao. Li Fuan did not beat around the bush. After clasping his fists, he said carefully, but this person's purpose may not be as simple as asking me to meet him. The Stone Buddha Temple. I remember it was a temple funded by the Che family. Gaolin Yin Fanshan. Is it hinting that there are some secrets hidden there? It may also be a trick to lure us to the Stone Buddha Temple, but make other plans. Zhao Shangxing said, after touching his forehead. This possibility cannot be ruled out. That person's divine wind is too fast, and my sword light is far behind. Even if we are in the same city, he may take advantage of the speed difference and catch us off guard. At this point, Li Fuan thought for a moment and changed his mind. In this case, I'll go to the Stone Buddha Temple to investigate first, and you, Mr. Hao, will stay in the Li Mansion in the Town Guard Mansion. If we encounter danger, I'll ask you to come to the rescue. Fortunately, they are both in the county city, and the 2 mansions are not too far from the Stone Buddha Temple. Okay. Zhao Shangxing seemed to have a good personal relationship with Li Fuan, and he agreed directly. Then he laughed and said, if it weren't for the county magistrate accompanying Fairy Zeng on a trip, I really couldn't leave my post without permission. Although the county magistrate is a royal family member and was promoted to the 4th rank human county magistrate at a young age, it is still a bit wishful thinking for him to marry the daughter of the Zheng family who achieved top grade magical powers at the age of 18. Li Fuan shook his head. There was no respect for the county magistrate in his words. But the county magistrate is with Fairy Zheng, and his safety can be fully guaranteed. Hao Shangxing said with a smile. That's the two of us together. I'm afraid we are no match for the fairy. As the two were talking, a young man in a green robe walked in from outside the courtyard. Although he looked only 23 or 24 years old, his face was pale, with dark circles under his eyes, and he looked like he had indulged in sex too much. 7 treasure swords hanging from his waist, green grass envious of spring robes. Is this your son Li Changsheng? I heard that he ranks 6th among the 7 heroes of the South Desert. This is the first time I've seen him. Hao Shangxing looked at the newcomer and said with a smile. It was my son. He mixed up the White Emperor soul-serving sword and the Black Emperor blood-passing sword and went wrong, and then he indulged himself in depravity, which led to his current state, which made old Hao laugh. After a pause, Li Fuan added, just now, after seeing the words in the yard, I sent a message to him and asked him to secretly block the streets around the stone Buddha temple. At this time, the young man in a green robe, Li Changsheng, stepped forward and saluted and reported seriously, Father, I asked some of my friends in the martial arts world to ambush in the streets around the stone Buddha temple, and they are allowed to enter but not leave. The reason for not using the Li family is to worry about alerting the enemy. Not bad. Li Fuan nodded. After the matter is over, allow them to go to the 2nd floor of the Classics building to choose a spell. Thank you, Father. Li Changsheng saluted again, but turned a blind eye to Hao Shangxing standing aside. After sending his son away, Li Fuan reached out and wiped the words on the ground, then smiled and said, it seems that Mr. Hao has made further progress in the great Merichi Bodhisattva Sutra. Although my son has not yet achieved supernatural powers, his spiritual awareness is extraordinary. At such a close distance, even if he cannot see through the supernatural powers, he must have sensed something. Who would have thought that he was completely unaware of you? My path to the Dangxuan realm was cut off long ago. Unlike you who still have a glimmer of hope, what can I improve? Your kid is used to hiding his shortcomings. He is obviously a cultivator in the Gangsha realm, but he pretends to be a cultivator. I guess he just pretended not to notice it just now. Hao Shangxing said, looking at the sky, and then said, you should go and check it out now. I'm afraid that something will really happen in the Stone Buddha temple after dark. What did Mr. Hao calculate? Li Fuan's heart moved when he heard this, and he calculated again in secret, but there was no result. No, I just have a bad premonition. In fact, I have been feeling depressed since a few years ago, and I have become more and more sensitive recently. Hao Shangxing said in a low voice. Me too. Maybe the problem lies in the Stone Buddha temple. In the guest room of a restaurant several streets away from the Stone Buddha temple, Zhao Chen and Qi Fimeng sat by the window, eating side dishes, while looking down at the surroundings of the temple. No wonder you feel danger. The resentment in the Stone Buddha temple is so great that it can hardly be suppressed. The reason why the problem has not been discovered so far is probably because of the merits accumulated in daily life. Chapter 77 begins. Hearing Qi Fimeng's words, Zhao Chen looked at the temple. That gave him a sense of danger, and asked thoughtfully, merit, can the merit that covers up evil still be called merit? Originally, it was indeed not possible. After all, when killing occurs, merit disappears. But after the end of the ancient times, many laws between heaven and earth have changed a lot. This also provides convenience for the evil spirits of Xingguan Temple to misinterpret Buddhist scriptures, allowing them to seduce many great virtues. Qi Fimeng shook her head, her expression full of depression. It seems that Fimeng attaches great importance to the Buddhist tradition. No wonder she can ignore the cost, just to pull out the Xingguan Temple members hidden in the Che family. Is this the Buddhist version of heretics are more hateful than pagans? Zhao Chen just thought of this. His expression moved, because he saw the two people who followed Wang Zhen during the day, appeared again near the Stone Buddha temple. They quietly crossed the streets and alleys, and climbed over the courtyard wall into the temple. The martial arts masters who were secretly blocking the area around the stone Buddha temple seemed to be unaware of this. Zhao Chen even asked Qi Meng beside him, but she also looked confused, obviously seeing nothing. Those two people actually have such a wonderful invisibility spell! Exclamation mark. No wonder the city just had an incident of a supernatural monk forcibly breaking into the Li family's residence, and they dared to continue the action. But why can I see them? In the morning, I thought it was the effect of spiritual perception, but now it seems that it is obviously not. The restaurant is 3 streets away from the stone Buddha temple, far beyond the range of spiritual perception. Is it the magic of the spiritual true key of the 5 immortals or the special ability of the great sun star raft? Well, I didn't use my true key at this time, so even if I have a magic, I shouldn't show it. So it's the great sun star raft. Does it give me an effect similar to real vision? It's just that I didn't notice this before. With his thoughts turning quickly, Zhao Chen told Miss Qi what he had just seen. Qi Meng thought about it and smiled. This is a good thing. The better their means of survival are, the more likely they are to escape from the hands of the Li family's magical powers. And that gives us a chance to capture them, right? Their invisibility can't be hidden from the magical monks, right? Zhao Chen asked. But Li Fuan is probably too busy to take care of herself right now. Qi Meng pointed to the resentment that suddenly rose in the stone Buddha temple, and said solemnly, fortunately you didn't rush in. This aura is probably even stronger than Uncle Wang. You said before that the stone Buddha temple was offering meat porridge? If I'm not mistaken, this is a ritual to summon the evil thoughts of Sandalwood Merit Buddha. Sandalwood Merit Buddha? Isn't that Tang monk? What does summoning his evil thoughts have to do with offering meat porridge? Could it be that the meat is Tang monk's meat? Zhao Chen looked at Qi Meng in confusion. He didn't say anything, but directly held her hand. Qi Meng immediately sensed what he was thinking, and after organizing his sentences a bit, he began to explain. Sandalwood Merit Buddha is the title of a Dongsuan monk who took the path of becoming a god through incense in the ancient Buddhist Holy Land. Well, because incense requires faith, the names are all very big, and are not restricted to cultivation. Even if it is only at the level of magical powers, it can also be given the title of Buddha or Bodhisattva. But at the end of the ancient times, many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the incense were transformed into demons, and Sandalwood Merit Buddha was no exception. He was unwilling to degenerate and passed away before being polluted, allowing many of his former friends who were transformed into demons to eat his Dharma body. But this process was too cruel and painful, and his soul did produce a trace of evil before it completely dissipated. And that evil thought quickly degenerated and devoured the demon that had eaten his flesh in reverse and turned into the current ancestor of the golden cicada lineage of Xingyan Temple. Its evil thoughts are numerous and difficult to defend against, so they often cause trouble in various parts of Daksha. This is also a common feature of all branches of the Xingyan Temple. As long as the conditions for descending are met, they can transfer power to the carrier. Fortunately, we reported it in time. If the stone Buddha temple was given more time, I'm afraid that the power transmitted by the evil thoughts of the Sandalwood Merit Buddha would have broken through to the Dongsuan level. Of course, once the scale is expanded, the chance of being discovered will increase a lot. Oh, this kind of merit as the surface, evil hidden inside model is exactly the forte of the golden cicada lineage. I should have thought of it earlier. I'm afraid Cheyugang is the carrier they chose. 10,000 families born Buddha is a means of accumulating merit, and the meat donated by the stone Buddha temple recently should be the merit meat of Cheyugang. No wonder he hasn't shown up for so many days. The fact that he hasn't recovered from his serious injury is probably just an excuse. He has actually been controlled by the members of the Xingyan temple. Even the attempt to capture someone like me who can help him cultivate his physique is just a cover-up, so the strength is very ordinary. While Qi Meng was explaining, she also sorted out her thoughts, and finally said with some concern, I don't know if Li Fuan can deal with Cheyugang who is possessed by evil thoughts. Even if the ceremony is interrupted in time and the power transmitted is limited, the magical powers possessed by the evil thoughts of the Sandalwood Merit Buddha are not so easy to deal with. In a cramped room in the stone Buddha temple, After eating the food brought by her uncle, Zhao Chen tried to enter a state of meditation, but for some reason, she was particularly irritable today and failed to enter a state of meditation several times. She glanced at her younger brother Zhao Chen, who was already holding a baby and keeping quiet, with envy in her eyes. Don't force yourself when you can't calm down. Wang Zhen, who was standing by, comforted her and then frowned and said to himself, and I'm a little uneasy, just like you. Just when Zhao Chen wanted to say something, he saw his uncle's face suddenly change, and then he rushed forward. Almost at the same time, several bullets hit the place where he had just sat. Who is it? Wang Zhen shouted out the window with a gun in hand. Hand over the jade Buddha you bought in the Black Sand Market 3 months ago, a man said in a hoarse voice. As his voice sounded, Wang Zhen and Zhao Chen finally found the attackers. They were 2 tall men covered in black robes, with their faces unclear. But one was tall and strong, and the other was slender and tall. It was the strong one who made the threat just now. They were standing by the window at the moment, and the tall and slender man said, hand over the jade Buddha, we will not take your lives, but will only erase your related memories. Don't think that others will hear the noise. We have set up a sound isolating magic circle around this house. Hearing this, Zhao Chen subconsciously glanced at the small jade Buddha hanging on his brother's neck, and then looked at his uncle. Wang Zhen shook his head and said, don't be fooled, they won't let us go. As he said that, he looked at the man in black robe with a cold gaze, and said word by word, my second brother Wang Lai has fallen into your hands, right? Otherwise you wouldn't know we bought the jade Buddha. The tall man sighed and said, why do you have to be so smart? Isn't it better to die honestly and painlessly? Crocodile, I said your deception is useless. It was the same with Wang Lai before. No matter how you threatened and lured him, he wouldn't say anything. I had to eat his brains to get the information. Although we kidnapped him, because he went to find Yan Hangxia, who would have thought that we would have an unexpected gain and know the whereabouts of an item sold by Fang Zuzi. The tall and strong man sneered. Idiot, shut up. The tall man cursed, but he felt a little uneasy in his heart, because even if the guy bear had no brains, he would not let such things speak out casually. You dare to scold me? The strong man's eyes immediately turned red, but he quickly controlled his emotions and snorted, now complete the task of Lord Tiger, and I will deal with you later. You. The tall man felt something was wrong when he heard this, because Xiang was very abnormal. He kept revealing more and more, which obviously meant something was wrong. His cold eyes swept over the 3 people in the room and finally locked onto Wang Zhen, thinking that he was the one who was playing tricks, but he completely ignored the slightly raised corners of the handsome young man Zhao Chen's mouth. Just when the 2 sides were on the verge of a fight, suddenly a solemn, but extremely evil voice came into everyone's ears. The world is like a sea of suffering, all living beings are sinking, and all things are illusory. It is better to destroy them all. Chapter 78, The Battle of Magical Powers. The world is like a sea of suffering, all living beings are sinking, and all things are illusory. It is better to destroy them all. With this solemn, evil, but heart-shaking voice, a golden Buddha seemed to appear in front of everyone, even Zhao Chen and Qi Meng, who were several streets away. It was solemn and compassionate, full of great purity, great liberation, and great wisdom. But at the same time as this golden Buddha appeared, the beautiful things in everyone's heart turned into ugly, disgusting, and painful things. Some people saw their beautiful wives and concubines turned into dead bodies oozing yellow pus, and some saw the delicacies in front of them turned into maggots and yellow soup. And those who had eaten the porridge provided by the stone Buddha temple were collectively turned into livestock, skinned and fleshed, cut into pieces, and chewed and eaten. In the world, there is hell everywhere, and there is no way to be liberated, so it is better to destroy it. When Zhao Chen was overwhelmed by this evil concept, a golden seal suddenly shone in his soul, instantly suppressing these heresies and restoring his clarity of mind. Is this the evil thought of sandalwood merit Buddha that Fei Meng mentioned? Just its concept almost made me fall into it. Fortunately, the 9 lights golden seal was stimulated, otherwise. Thinking of this, Zhao Chen suddenly thought that Miss Qi might also be affected, and hurriedly turned to look at her, only to find that her eyes were clear and not affected at all. This girl's secret is really big. When Zhao Chen was thinking secretly, Qi Meng, who noticed his gaze, looked back and explained, "This is the domain of law, or the domain of supernatural powers, that only some special Dangsuan monks have. In the domain of law, the concept of Dangsuan is the truth. Fortunately, we reported it in time. The power transmitted by the golden cicada lineage is limited. This domain is just an empty shell. As long as you are determined, you will not be affected. Girl, you know so much. I had already ruled out the possibility that you are the reincarnation of a great power, but now I'm not sure." Zhao Chen just thought of this and heard Qifeng continue, "It doesn't matter if you are affected. As long as you wake up in time, you will just think of it as a nightmare." As she said, she winked at Zhao Chen playfully and smiled, "Be careful to cover your ears." What? Before Zhao Chen came to his senses, the piercing sword whistle sound broke through the air. Looking around, the red light in the stone Buddha temple was shining, and a blue lotus bloomed from it. The purple sword mixed with the red essence. The red light spit out the blue lotus. Obviously, Blue Lotus Sword Li Fuan got rid of the influence of the Golden Buddha on the mind, and was using the sword whistle to help more people get rid of the other party's concept. After all, if left alone, someone may become a believer of the other party at any time, and enhance the other party's power. This is one of the changes of the Li family's 4th grade magical power Blue Lotus Sword art. Phoenix Song laughing at Confucius. In the Stone Buddha Temple, Li Fuan, who used the Phoenix Song laughing at Confucius sword to break the influence of the empty shell domain, looked at the skeleton pit under his feet and the man and woman sitting in the middle of the many skeletons, practicing happy zen, with an extremely ugly face. He was naturally familiar with the man, who was the in-law of the Li family, Che Yugang, the Buddha of 10,000 families ranked 13th on the human outstanding list. At this moment, he was naked, only covered by a layer of golden merit coat, but behind his head was a halo composed of many resentful souls. His face still showed kindness and compassion, but his eyes were full of tyranny and anger. And the woman who meditated with him was his niece, Che Qingsu, the vice president of the Human Chamber of Commerce. This seemingly heroic woman was now full of charm, and her eyes were full of madness and mockery. "My dear uncle, ever since you ruined me, I have been thinking about this day all the time. At first, I just acted capricious and domineering, helped you find suitable boys and girls, and tried to provoke as many people as possible, hoping that one day I would provoke someone you couldn't afford to provoke. But since I was saved by my Buddha, I found that my previous thoughts were ridiculous. How could I only retaliate against you? The whole human and the whole Daksha have to endure the pain I have experienced. And revenge on you is just the first step. It is painful to have your flesh cut every day, right? It is not comfortable to be possessed by the resentful souls who once praised you, but now hate you so much, right? But you should feel honored that you were chosen as a vessel of my Buddha. It's a pity that the matter was exposed too early, so my Buddha could not come completely. And the reason why I still want to do this with you now is to make your ugly deeds known to everyone, so that everyone knows what an ugly thing your 10,000 families Buddha and Cheyu palaces." While Che Qingsu was speaking, she sometimes laughed and sometimes cried bitterly. Her expression became more and more crazy, and she gradually became incoherent in the end. After hearing her words, the anger and tyranny in Che Yugang's eyes gradually faded, turning into indifference and indifference. At this moment, Li Fuan knew that a demon of the first level of Xingguang Temple had come in a body. It's not that he didn't want to stop it, but that layer of merit coat was blessed by the fruit position of the Golden Buddha, and it was at a very high level. He couldn't break it even with several swords. Fortunately, this stone Buddha temple was bought by Che Yugang for only a few years. Except for those who were polluted by him, the number of guests who died here is limited. Otherwise the Taoist office would have discovered the clues long ago. Now that the Golden Buddha is just an empty shell due to insufficient preparation, this layer of merit coat will not last long. Thinking of this, Li Fuan breathed a sigh of relief, and was grateful to the strange supernatural power who broke the news. At this time, as the golden light on the merit coat gradually faded, Che Yugang with an increasingly indifferent look slowly stood up, pulled Che Qingsu from his body, and threw it aside. Then, he looked at Li Fuan flying in the air with a sword, stretched out his right hand, and slashed forward. This hand was as white as jade, glowing, but in Li Fuan's eyes it was so terrifying. boom, boom, boom. His heartbeat unconsciously accelerated, like a drum, and a sense of silent danger rose. Then, he saw that palm at an extremely slow speed, like a knife and an axe, slashing towards him little by little. But he could only watch, because although his thoughts were the same, his body could hardly make any movements. Is this a great magical power of the upper third grade involving time? Just when Li Fuan was in despair, a palm condensed by a sun flame suddenly stretched out and collided with the white palm. With a bang, several courtyards of the stone Buddha temple were instantly flattened to the ground, with the collision of the two palms as the center. Yang Yan's palm disappeared, and the figure of an old man with a big bump on his head emerged. It was Hao Shangxing, the life-seeking longevity star who found something wrong and rushed to support. His time-related magical power can only affect a limited range, and his attack magical power is only at most 4th grade. Let's cover each other. Hao Shangxing looked at Li Fuan not far away and said so. But as soon as he finished speaking, Che Yugang looked over indifferently and then opened his mouth and recited a passage of scriptures. Observe the Supreme Heart Buddha. Practice deep prajna paramita. As the melodious chanting sounded, Li Fuan and Hao Shangxing, who were about to launch an attack, changed their faces at the same time, because they felt that there were invisible shackles strangling their heads and tightening continuously. That kind of pain was unbearable even for the magical monks, let alone taking action. Their bodies began to shake. Fortunately, at this time, a divine wind appeared out of nowhere and rushed straight to the Cheiyu Palace. Chapter 79 Golden Cicada. The mighty divine wind and the tornado in the sky. Although the transformation divine wind escape is only ranked as a 6th grade magical power, its destructive power is quite impressive. Especially for Che Yugang, who is possessed by the evil thoughts of the demon and is only a freak in the realm of magic power. It is even more threatening. What's more, Wang Daoyi, who has transformed into divine wind, has been bloodlocked by Xingcha and is completely unaffected by the magical power of tightening curse. In response, Che Yugang had to stop chanting and instead stretched out his fingers and drew a circle around himself at a very fast speed. A golden shield instantly spread above the circle, protecting Che Yugang in it. The next moment, the divine wind hit the golden shield directly. The howling winds tore at the shield, ripples on its surface, but could not break through. After 2 or 3 seconds of stalemate, the divine wind stopped pestering and suddenly swept up Che Qingsu, who was only smiling foolishly, and rushed out of the temple. He missed the attack and fled immediately. Seeing this, Che Yugang used his magical power to delay time, trying to keep him, but the brilliance of the magical power could not catch up with the divine wind and could only watch him escape. At this time, Blue Lotus Sword Li Fuan and life-seeking longevity star Hao Shangxing had also gotten rid of the previous tightening curse, and the two experienced people immediately noticed the weakness of Che Yugang, who was possessed by evil thoughts. Although he has powerful magical powers, he cannot move at present, perhaps because the Advent ceremony was brought forward. It seems that I cannot use multiple magical powers at the same time, unless I use the palm technique first, and then slow down time, like I did just now. But in that case, the palm technique will be like a tree without roots without the follow-up magic power support, so I can easily block it. The range of his spiritual consciousness is not wide, it seems to be only about 300 steps, so he failed to catch up with Shenfeng. I understand. He forcibly transformed Che Yugang's spiritual consciousness into spiritual consciousness, and this ranges Che Yugang's original soul strength. After a brief exchange of spiritual consciousness, the two men tacitly retreated 500 steps away. Then one of them sacrificed the green lotus sword and the other released many yang flames and began to launch a long-range attack on the Cheiyu Palace. While several magical powers were fighting, some of the people in the stone Buddha temple who had eaten the meat porridge suddenly turned into terrifying monsters. Their bodies generally grew to more than 2 meters tall. Their skin was dark blue, covered with corpse spots. Their faces were hideous, and rows of sharp teeth grew in their mouths. They began to indiscriminately attack the living people around them. Anyone who was caught by them would be disemboweled and eaten alive. In such an environment, Wang Zhen, who was protecting his nephew and niece, felt increasingly difficult. After all, in addition to avoiding the residual power of the collision of magical powers and the attacks of monsters, they were also being chased by two men in black robes. With a bang, a gunshot was heard, and after a monster that suddenly pounced on him was shot in the head. Wang Zhen, who knew that his position was exposed again, did not dare to neglect it. He pulled up Zhao Jin and Zhao Qin and rolled directly behind a nearby stone. Almost at the same time, several bullets hit the route they were rolling along. Crazy. Facing the battle between monks with magical powers and the invasion of various monsters, he still chased us relentlessly. What a madman. Wang Zhen cursed in his heart while replacing the bullets for the musket. Taking advantage of the fact that he recovered from the influence of the Golden Buddha earlier than the other party, he injured one of them and rushed out of the temple with his nephew and niece. He thought that in such a dangerous environment, the two people would definitely put saving their lives first, but who would have thought that they would not play by the rules at all. Fortunately, this is the edge of the temple, and we can get out by climbing over the wall. Wang Zhen pointed to the dog hole in the corner and signaled with his eyes that Zhao Jin and Zhao Qin should find a chance to get out. Then he took a deep breath and jumped out of the bunker with a gun. Bang, bang, bang. The sounds of muskets were fired one after another. Relying on the magic brought by his eyes and ears, Wang Zhen used his body skills to dodge most of the bullets fired at his vitals, but he was still shot in the left shoulder and lower abdomen. But at the same time, the tall and strong man on the other side was also hit in the ribs by a gun. Humph. Both sides groaned. But at this moment, another tall man suddenly appeared, pointed his gun at Zhao Jin who was crawling out of the dog hole, and pulled the trigger directly. Seeing this, Wang Zhen flew over without hesitation, and a blood mist immediately appeared on his back. But while he was in the air, he raised his gun and shot at the tall man, pouring bullets on him. The tall man had been injured in the leg before, so it was difficult for him to dodge. Uncle Zhao Jin, who happened to turn around and saw this scene, immediately had tears in his eyes. Go. After Wang Zhen used the last of his strength to push his niece out, he lay down and blocked the entrance of the cave. Seeing that the target had escaped from the temple, Crocodile was shot several times again, and the bear with broken ribs roared in grief and anger, with resentment in his eyes. Then, he took out a thick bear skin with many runes, painted on the surface from somewhere, draped it over his body, and then rolled a few times, and actually turned into a bear that was 3 meters tall when standing up. The giant bear came to Wang Zhen in a few steps, stretched out his huge bear paw, and tore him in half. Seeing this scene, the crocodile, who was dying on the side, finally found something wrong. Why don't we choose to retreat when we are in the battlefield of magical powers? I clearly know the identities of these people and can find them at any time. Why should I risk my life to stop them from escaping? The cost of using the bear transformation for this guy Xiang is not small. It seems that he is so angry that he doesn't care because he sees that I'm about to die. But my relationship with him is not that good. In addition, from the very beginning, Xiang kept revealing secrets in a very strange way. Could it be that our actions have been influenced by someone? If it's not this Wang Zhen, then it can only be. The last thing that flashed through his mind was the face of the handsome young man Zhao Qin, but unfortunately he was no longer able to remind his companions. On the other side, the giant bear, which noticed the disappearance of the crocodile breath, roared again, then grabbed Wang Zhen's head and the half of his body connected to the head, and slammed through the wall of the stone Buddha temple. Outside the wall, Zhao Jin was still shouting for his uncle, but he saw a giant bear breaking through the wall and rushing out, and it was holding half of his uncle's body in its claws. The horrible scene, that could not be seen in nightmares, as well as the fierce aura of the bear, finally caused the little girl's spirit to collapse. She could no longer face the cruel reality and fainted. Zhao Qin immediately caught his sister, carried her on his back, and turned to flee. The giant bear would never let him have his way. It caught up with him in 2 or 3 steps, and swung Wang Zhen's body to smash him. Fortunately, at this time, several chivalrous men who had been arranged by the green-robed young master Li Changsheng arrived in time, and took the blow from the giant bear. After seeing Zhao Jin and Zhao Qin come out, they actually wanted to come over to question them, so they just happened to catch up. Seeing that the giant bear was blocked by the chivalrous men who had originally blocked the nearby streets, Zhao Qin, who was carrying his sister on his back, raised his mouth slightly. He looked to the north, glanced at the slender figure emerging from the river, and disappeared into the night without looking back. Chapter 80 Fairy. A beautiful woman emerged from the river. She was wearing a simple warrior outfit, and her eyebrows were full of heroic spirit. It was the Zheng girl who went out with the county governor in the mouth of the life-seeking birthday star Zhao Chen, an 18-year-old magical cultivator. After her cold eyes swept the direction of the stone Buddha temple in the city, her graceful figure became transparent again, and turned into a pile of bubbles. The next moment, the Zheng girl appeared in a pond in the stone Buddha temple. At this time, Li Fuan and Hao Shangxing were still attacking Che Yugang with all their strength, but they could not break his golden barrier made of circles. Even the barrier had a tendency to become more and more solid, and it was difficult for them to create ripples on it. Obviously, as time went by, the evil thoughts possessing Che Yugang would probably become stronger and stronger. Once he got rid of the restriction of being unable to move, or could use multiple magical powers at the same time, it would be good to be able to save his life with only 2 middle-grade magical powers, and it would be impossible to stop him. Therefore, after sensing the breath of Zheng's daughter, Li Fuan and Hao Shangxing were all overjoyed, and hurriedly sent a message to explain the situation, and share the intelligence of the supernatural power they had discovered. In response, Zheng's daughter just nodded slightly, then stretched out her fair palm, and pulled out a green long sword from her chest. This sword seemed to be made of unknown grass and wood, and there were 6 forks on the sword body, like branches. This was exactly the 2nd grade supernatural power she mastered, Yimu 7 branch sword. She waved her white hand, and the tip of the sword pointed diagonally to the sky. In an instant, the sky above Human was surging with wind and clouds, and its momentum was many times stronger than Wang Daoi's previous divine wind. Then, she pointed her long sword, and thousands of thunders fell from the clouds, and chopped directly towards the Cheyu Palace. The flying golden snake flashed by, and the silver rope hung upside down in the daytime. The Yimu divine thunder gathered by the Yimu 7 swords instantly submerged the Cheyu Gong body. Seeing that the thunder was about to fall on him, the Che Yugong possessed by the evil thoughts finally changed his face, or gave people a feeling of awakening from a dream. Who calculated me? Blinded my spiritual wisdom? This thought flashed through his mind. But facing the power of Yimu divine thunder, the evil thoughts had no time to think, so they had to forcibly overdraw the body they possessed, expand the range of their magical powers, and want to use their own spring and autumn cicadas' great magical power to affect the time around Zheng's daughter. Li Fuan and Hao Shangxing both saw his plan, and at the same time, transmitted the sound to Zheng's daughter, and were ready to take action, to stop Che Yugong's subsequent means. But facing the incredible time-related magical powers, Zheng's daughter had no expression on her perfectly contoured facial features, allowing the cicadas to affect herself. But just when the evil thoughts in Che Yugang thought they had succeeded, they were shocked to find that the Yimu divine thunder showed no signs of slowing down, but broke through the golden shield with overwhelming force, and all of it struck him. The magnificent power of heaven, magnificent and terrifying. Boom. 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 One after another, the divine thunder exploded on Che Yugang, and the white light instantly illuminated the sky of Human, making the dark night as bright as day. A few seconds later, when the chain of lightning gradually dissipated, only a deep pit of more than 10 feet deep was left on the spot, and Che Yugang had already turned into dust, leaving no trace. With such a large scale and long-term lightning strike, the evil thoughts should not be able to escape. Zheng's daughter retracted the green longsword and spoke lightly. Then, she looked around, and found that there were still many man-eating monsters in the temple that was almost plowed by thunder. So she waved her hand again, turning the rain that just came with the thunder into foam, and swallowed all the monsters at once. Only the giant bear that she had seen when she just came back was swept away by an inexplicable gust of wind when the thunder fell from the sky, but she didn't care. As long as it wasn't a demon, she, an outsider, didn't want to interfere in other people's county affairs. Thank you for your help, Fairy Zheng. Fairy wiped out a demon with the upper grade magical power level with just a wave of her hand. You are worthy of being the leader of the magical power of this generation of aristocratic families and upper sects. In 3 years, you will be ranked on the starry constellation magic power list. Li Fuan bowed her hands and complimented while thanking her. But although it was a compliment, it was actually more than half sincere. The demon of Xinjiang Temple that she and Senior Hao couldn't deal with was destroyed by her in one blow, which showed that it would be easy for her to kill herself. This evil incarnation of Golden Cicada cannot be called a top-grade magical power. The power it carries is limited, and its power is at most between the 3rd and 4th grades. The Zheng family girl shook her head and continued, if his time-related magical power can be used in full, I think it will not be so easy to deal with it. So the time-related magical power is just an incomplete version? Li Fuan and Hao Shangxing looked at each other, and after half a minute, the latter asked, Fairy Zheng, I wonder where my county governor is now? I almost forgot. The Zheng surnamed woman's eyes moved slightly, and she waved her hand to summon a bubble from a pool of water below. Then, the bubble broke, revealing a figure of a young man about 25 or 26 years old. He was dressed in gorgeous clothes and a high crown, and he looked good. He was the human county governor. But now the county governor looked pale and dazed. When he looked at the Zheng surnamed woman, his eyes were no longer obsessed and lustful as before, but full of fear. When the thunder struck before, Zhao Chen, who was traveling at night beside the Ligan River south of Human, risking encountering weirdness, stopped again, looked back into the city, clicked his tongue a few times, and thought, Zheng's Dragon King's Blessing Sutra is really powerful. Fortunately, that stupid golden cicada helped me to ward off disaster, otherwise I would not be able to withstand such thunder. What's more, the Zheng family girl gave me a feeling of being a bit inhuman. I'm afraid she has mastered the 1st grade magical power, the immortal body of the evil dragon in the Dragon King's Blessing Sutra, which can anchor the physical state of a period of time ago. Even if you try your best to kill her, she can go back to her own time and revive on the spot. She is even more difficult to deal with than us demons. Hey, the immortal body of the evil dragon is immune to most of the time-type magical powers. I'm afraid that the evil thought of that stupid cicada is over. This is good. His golden cicada is dead, which is just right for me to shed my shell. Alas, the barrier covering Daksha is too tight, and there may be people from the upper sect and the noble family coming to encircle and suppress at any time. Otherwise, there would be no need to calculate so much when sending a little power. So, Jinchen, you can't blame me. Just when he thought of this, Zhao Jin on his back woke up slowly. The little girl recalled the tragic death of her uncle for her, and her hatred for the bear even surpassed that of Che Gang. After a long while, she wiped her tears, got off her brother, and asked in a daze, Zyadakin, where are we going now? Let's go to Bingquan town. I remember my uncle said that the head of the Zhao family there is a distant relative of my family. Zhao Chen said, after rolling his eyes. A base he developed there was taken out by the Taoist officials as a scapegoat, and he read a lot of interesting things from the memories of the 2-4 evil hall idiots just now, so he was very interested in the secrets hidden in Bingquan town. Okay. As a girl of only 15 years old, Zhao Jin didn't have any opinions, so she naturally agreed. At the same time, on a mountain peak hundreds of miles away from Jinjia County, the man who had wanted to attack Wang Daowai showed joy in his eyes. In a restaurant a few streets away from Shifu Temple, Miss Qi, who had witnessed the thunder washing the ground, widened her eyes and said with emotion, Human actually has such a powerful magical cultivator? I heard from my shopkeeper Lin that this magical cultivator seems to be from the Zheng family in Taizhou, and his title is Sakura Dragon Fairy. Chapter 81 Follow-up. While Zhao Chen was speaking, he once again released Wang Daowai, and while the two supernatural powers were overwhelmed by the power of the Yimu Shenlei, he swept away the giant bear that was fighting with the knights outside the temple. He had used Wang Daowai continuously today, and it cost a lot, so he had to get his money back. However, after receiving the news that Wang Zhen was dead, his heart was still shrouded in a haze. In any case, his original intention was to be chivalrous and help this family, but he didn't expect that they would still suffer a disaster. Although it was none of his business, he chose to kidnap Chakingsu first, and it was true that he didn't rescue them in the first place. Fortunately, Zhao Chen was not a person who was obsessed with trivial matters. He just sighed about the ill-fated family and put it aside. After all, if Wang Daowei hadn't taken action at the dock, they might have been captured by Che Yugang at that time. He didn't owe them anything, but he was grateful to them. What's more, the brother and sister finally escaped. Zhao Chen finished summoning Wang Daowei and sent the giant bear to the secret space under the base of the statue of the goddess of light in Lushan Mountain, just like Che Qingsu before, and cleaned up the traces. On the other side, after witnessing the Zheng family girl solve all the problems with overwhelming power, Qi Fimeng murmured, "Zheng, Sakura Dragon Fairy. Taizhou is nearly 20,000 miles away from Ganzhou. What are the children of the Zheng family doing in a remote place like Human?" However, although she felt a little strange, she did not think much about it. Instead, she sat on the bed in a comfortable position and began to meditate and breathe, running her true ki. Zhao Chen saw this scene and seemed to understand something. Then he walked to the bed and closed the window to prevent the noise from the street outside from disturbing her. Although the previous magical battle did not last long, the movement was very large, especially the last Yi Mu Shen Lei. Almost half of the people in the city witnessed the terrifying power of heaven and naturally panicked at this moment. If it were not for the people of the county magistrate's office and the Li family who were already trying their best to maintain order, appease the people's hearts, and impose heavy penalties on those who took advantage of the fire, it would probably be even more chaotic. After a while, Qi Fimeng slowly opened her eyes. She sniffed, smiled and said, "You smell so good. You are worthy of being the spiritual energy of the 5 fairies known as Jade Girl infused with 5 fragrances. Girl, you are already harassing, do you know that?" Zhao Chen complained in his heart, but on the surface he was surprised and said, "Have you opened your nose? It's only been a short time. Fei Meng's cheat is no smaller than mine. When I completed the task in the fog of history before, I was just a little bit away from the nose orifice. This time, I finally succeeded by stopping the evil spirits from coming to the Xingguan temple." Qi Fimeng nodded first, then she pouted and said coquettishly, "We are good friends. I will tell you what I can say. There is no need to test. Well, I have made a related great wish. There will be feedback if I stop their conspiracy. But this time the feedback is actually much less than I expected. Maybe it's because I didn't intervene directly, and even the report was completed by you. Making a great wish and getting feedback after completing a little bit, isn't this normal in itself? Is this the main ability of your bodhisattva picture? Then what kind of great wish did you make that you need to keep entering the fog of history?" Although he wanted to ask, seeing that Qi Fimeng didn't seem to want to say more, Zhao Chen changed the subject. "This restaurant is my Zhao family's property. You can stay here for a few days, and when the city can be entered and exited normally in a few days, we will go out of the city to get the trophies. Anyway, Che Qingsu and the bear will not die for a while. Such a big thing happened in the city. It must be closed for a few days, but it won't be too long. Otherwise the city will be fine. But those low-level workers and laborers living outside the city may not be able to hold on." "Okay." Qi Fimeng agreed, and then suddenly turned her head deliberately, as if listening to something, and then a strange smile appeared on her face, and said, "I'm fine, but you seem to have to explain." "What do you mean?" Zhao Chen was about to ask when a familiar voice came from outside. That was Lin Ruxiang, one of the assistants assigned to him by the original owner's father, who was in charge of part of the Zhao family's business in the county city. For some reason, although he had a clear conscience, Zhao Chen suddenly had the illusion that he took a little girl out to play and was caught by the dean. In the new Golden Art Martial Arts Hall, Huang Xianjun, who had been looking forward to the practice of Water Moon Illusion Body since he handed over the practice method of Water Moon Illusion Body to Zhao Chen, rushed to the streets nearby after the breath of magical powers fighting broke out in the Stone Buddha temple. However, his current cultivation level is low, so he did not dare to get close. Closing his eyes and concentrating, after sensing for a moment using some unknown means, Huang Xianjun's face showed obvious disappointment. It's not him. The golden art leaves its hometown, and the divine wind rolls up the waves. The morning light dyes the red clouds, and the water and moon accompany the 5 fairies have clearly come true. Why not him? However, when the crocodile died, and the bear really turned into a giant bear, Huang Xianjun's face first showed a trace of surprise, and then a look of ecstasy. but he quickly suppressed his emotions and even forced his gaze away, not to look at the thin figure carrying the girl on his back, so as not to be noticed. Finally, I've waited for you. The next day, Zhao Chen got up early to do morning exercises as usual. After practicing the Taizuanman sword, he practiced the water moon illusion body and the Chuang sword manual obtained from the historical mist in turn. After being lectured by Lin Ruxiang last night, he was driven back to the martial arts hall by the other party. Qi Fimeng was just having fun the whole time and didn't think that such a misunderstanding would actually hurt her reputation more. But she didn't take her reputation seriously at all. Emptiness is color, and color is emptiness. From this point of view, she really has the great wisdom of the Bodhisattva. Brother Feng also did morning exercises with Zhao Chen. He was promoted to the true Qi realm and wielded a big axe vigorously, which was very powerful. According to Brother Feng's boasting, the Yuan sect in Anai has 3 magic weapons, namely the Galaxy 5 element map, the Yuan opening mountain axe and the Zuanian water avoidance sword. Many inheritances of the Yuan sect are also derived from these 3 treasures. For example, the Kigan martial arts 36 axe techniques of the Heavenly Gang that senior Brother Feng is practicing now comes from the King Yu's mountain splitting axe. When the sun was getting higher, the two of them stopped their practice one after another, and Zhao Chen wiped his sweat and asked, "Senior Brother Feng, where is the master?" Master Huang used to instruct Feng Kang and Zhao Chen during morning exercises and answer their questions. The master left a letter saying that there was something going on in his sect and he needed to be away for a few days. He left last night before the city gates were closed. By the way, he has also given you full authority for tomorrow's competition. New January, asking for monthly tickets. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82 Yan Hongxia wakes up. Master left the city last night. What a coincidence in timing. What could the Yuan sect need a monk like Master who has lost his magical power to do? Zhao Chen was a little worried, but when he thought that his master might have been a monk with magical powers, and that he was knowledgeable and had a backup plan, he was relieved. Since he traveled through time, the only people he was worried about were Master Huang and Senior Brother Feng, in addition to Qi Fimeng. Of course, there was also Sister Hongxia. After all, she was already Zhao Chen's property. Seeing Zhao Chen lost in thought, Feng Kang smiled and teased, "Why? Master is not here, so you become worried? When you said you were going to take on the challenge of San Escort Agency, Black Cloud Martial Arts School and Green Snake Martial Arts School, you seemed very confident." He was eager to try this competition. Even though he had just achieved True Key, he was very confident in defeating those disciples of the Martial Arts School and Escort Agency. After all, he was learning the orthodox martial arts of the Yuan sect. Although the Yuan sect is not well known in Ganzhou, it is also a well-known sect in Anai. It has produced many Dongsuan realm monks. Its status is similar to that of the Li family, but it has only declined in recent decades. How can such a foundation be compared with the low-level escort agencies and martial arts halls that don't even have the inheritance of magic power? The vice president of the Chamber of Commerce has been arrested by me and put in the small black room. It is uncertain whether this competition can be carried out. Why should I worry? Zhao Chen glanced at Senior Brother Feng and asked carefully, "Senior Brother, Master left so hurriedly this time. You don't seem to be worried at all?" Hearing this, Feng Kang also restrained his smile and sighed. "What's the use of worrying? He won't listen to me. And Master has left suddenly like this more than once or twice. You'll get used to it. So, it seems that I don't know Master well enough." After thinking about it, Zhao Chen asked tentatively, "Senior Brother, do you know why Master was expelled from Yuan sect in the first place?" "I'm not sure." Senior Brother Feng shook his head at first, and then said mysteriously, "But I heard from second Senior Brother that there was a civil strife in the Yuan sect 20 or 30 years ago, and later there was news that 2 Dongsuan masters in the sect passed away one after another, and the Yuan sect declined because of this. And Master came to Ganzhou not long after that." So, I suspect that master's expulsion from the sect may be related to this. Civil strife in the Yuan sect? What a cliched and bloody story. Could it be that master is following the script of Feng Qingyang? Zhao Chen complained a few words in his heart, but on the surface he asked curiously, "Senior brother Feng, I always hear you mention the eldest and second senior brothers. What are their names, and what kind of people are they?" "Well, the eldest senior brother is named Yubin. He is mature beyond his years, and is actually a bit like you, but you are much more lively than him. He won't privately ask girls to go to the restaurant to watch the night view." Speaking of this, Feng Kang winked at Zhao Chen and showed a meaningful smile. Could Aunt Lin be a big mouth? It's not been long since my affair was known by my senior brother. Zhao Chen was speechless. "It was spread by your servant Feng Kuo. I thought it could confuse the opponent before the competition and make him look down on you, so I didn't stop the spread of the news." Feng Kang patted Zhao Chen on the shoulder and added with a smile, "Feng Kuo, I almost forgot about this chatter. In order to conceal the fact that Yan Hangxia was in my room, I sent him to Aunt Lin to help. Come to think of it, he was indeed with Aunt Lin last night. I shouldn't have stayed in my own restaurant to save some money." Zhao Chen thought with some regret. Speaking of which, it was Zhao Chen who deliberately booked a room with Qi Fimeng in his own restaurant. After all, he needed to be within his visual range to launch Wang Daoye, and the location of that restaurant was just right. Moreover, he always needed a reason to stay out all night, and asking a girl out in his own restaurant was the most reasonable excuse, and no one would doubt it. Even Aunt Lin just warned him that he was still young and there were some things that he didn't need to get in touch with so early. As for Qi Fimeng, she had a fake identity prepared in advance in Human County City, and she also did not arouse suspicion, but after this incident, her reputation must be bad. But Qi Fimeng would not care at all. "Well, when the eldest brother was learning martial arts with the master, I was only a few years old. I didn't have a deep impression of him. I only knew that he was a cultivator like you, and he quickly achieved true Qi and was sent to the Yuan sect by the master. As for the second brother, he is more familiar with me, and he has a very lively personality. Most of what I'm now is due to him." Speaking of the second brother, Feng Kang unconsciously smiled and continued, "The second brother's surname is Hu and his given name is Tu, which is homophonic with muddle when put together. He always ridicules himself as rarely confused. He is addicted to alcohol and has average talent. He looks very unreliable. But the second brother actually sees things more clearly than the eldest brother. He can always grasp the essence of things. Even the master was enlightened by him, which is why he is so cheerful and playful now. Speaking of which, when I was a child, the master was very serious. He was not as easy to get close to as he has been in the past 10 years. This is all the credit of the second brother." Well, the second brother came back to see the master several times after he went to the Yuan sect. The most recent time was a few months ago. Feng Kang talked endlessly about the past of his second brother, from blowing up a manure pit to drawing a turtle on the master's face, from secretly exposing corrupt officials to upholding justice for bullied martial arts disciples, and everything else, sketching out the image of mischievous boy who had a good sense of proportion. It was not until almost lunchtime that Feng Kang stopped with a sense of unsatisfaction. Zhao Chen also hurriedly said goodbye to him, left the martial arts hall, and went to his own restaurant. "Since you want to act, you have to have a beginning and an end, right? And being with Qi Fimeng, not only can you practice moves with her, but you can also hear some high-end knowledge of the rivers and lakes, killing two birds with one stone." After seeing Zhao Chen coming over again, Lin Ruxiang was also helpless. After all, she was not the other party's real elder, so she could only write a letter to Bingquan Town while stuffing him with a box of condoms. Condoms were invented in the ancient Tang dynasty. They are one of the few technologies that have survived more than 1,000 years of chaos. Looking at the box of things in his hand that are said to be the new products of the Flower God sect, Zhao Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he still put it in his pocket. In the San Escort agency in the east of the city, the chief escort Song San sat in the main seat and asked his nephew, who was in charge of general affairs, "Have you found out what happened last night? The news is still blocked." but what is certain is that a magical war broke out in the Stone Buddha temple. Almost all the buildings there have been destroyed. From some nearby high-rise buildings, you can see that there is even a lake in the center. His nephew was a little dazed when he spoke, and his face was full of disbelief. Although he knew that the magical cultivators were powerful, he didn't expect them to be so strong. Can they still be considered human? Song San was silent for a moment and then sighed. Unbelievable, that's the magical power. There was shock, yearning, and sadness in his eyes. Although his three emperors cannon fist has a noble origin, its inheritance is very incomplete. There is not even a method for practicing the acupoints of the front and back yin, let alone building a spiritual platform, building a bridge between heaven and earth, and achieving magic power. Fortunately, the vice president of the Che family is a man of his words. After I challenged the Golden Bio Martial Arts School, he sent me a copy of Hunyo and Yikigang that can be practiced to perfection. Thinking of the vice president of the Che family, Song San asked carefully, I remember that Shifu temple is the property of the Che family. Will this have an impact on the Che family? It should be okay, right? After all, Che Yugang is listed on the human outstanding people list, and the girl of the Che family is the wife of the fifth son of the Li family. His nephew replied, well, then we will continue to participate in tomorrow's competition, but don't compete too much for victory. Song San thought for a while and ordered, yes. Outside the west gate of Human, at the Green Snake Martial Arts School, the tall and burly master she frowned and asked, have you heard what happened in the city? It seems like there was a battle of magical powers. Now people are allowed to enter, but not leave the city, so the specific situation is not clear. The short old man in green clothes replied, a battle of magical powers. Those masters have nothing to do with us, and will not affect our competition with the Golden Art Martial Arts School tomorrow. Master Shi's eyes were firm. Tomorrow we must take over that trade route to Dunhuang no matter what. Late at night, in the bedroom in the backyard of the Golden Art Martial Arts School, Zhao Chen used his true ki to practice dual cultivation with Yan Hongxia as usual. After checking her body, he suddenly found that the layer of alien power in her soul had been completely wiped out by his own true energy and magic power. After many times of dual cultivation, there was no barrier between Zhao Chen's true ki and Yan Hongxia's magic power, so even without the help of the big sun star raft, he could detect the state of her soul. In other words, Sister Hongxia is about to wake up. Just when Zhao Chen came to this conclusion, and had not yet removed his hands from her body, Yan Hongxia, who had been sleeping for nearly 7 days, suddenly opened her eyes. Chapter 83. This is a misunderstanding. Yan Hongxia felt that she had a very long dream. In the dream, she was wrapped in an extremely attractive breath, comfortable and happy, making her whole body and mind immersed in joy, floating in the air. This feeling is very similar to the description of the real 5 emperors paying homage to the truth in the Taoist book. That is, the 3 realms are happy and bow to the heavenly lord, which is a direct manifestation of the beauty of the Tao. But no matter how beautiful the feeling is, it will end. When she woke up from her muddled dream, before she had time to figure out her own situation, she found that there was something wrong with the position of the middle dantian. And the strangeness came from a man's hand. Yan Hongxia's cheeks turned red all of a sudden. Even though the man smelled very good, even though she seemed to feel that the man was very close from the bottom of her heart, she still subconsciously grabbed the other's wrist, and at the same time as she flew up, she was about to use her life spell Zerguang to capture him first. But her intention was not successfully completed. For some reason, Yan Hongxia found that the life spell that was supposed to be activated by thinking had completely lost its effect and did not work. Moreover, her grappling action was not powerful at all. Instead, she fell into the man's arms as she stood up, as if she was throwing herself into his arms. How could this happen? Yan Hongxia, who had just woken up, was still a little confused. She was attracted by the aura of the man, and became confused again. At this time, the man, Zhao Chen, finally said, Sister Hongxia, it's me. Hearing this slightly familiar voice, Yan Hongxia came back to her senses. She looked carefully, and found that the man she threw herself into was Zhao Chen, the younger brother she had recognized in Bingquan town before, and the stepson of her close friend Li Zieling. However, the aura of the other party was completely different from before. as if it was attracting her all the time. Yan Hongxia pushed Zhao Chen away and quickly checked herself. After a sigh of relief, she asked in a stern voice, Zhao Chen, what did you do to me? Why is my magic sealed? Although she said it in a stern voice, her tone was like the coquettishness of lovers. Even Yan Hongxia herself could not believe that she could make such a sound. Sister Hongxia, your magic is not sealed, but you can't use it on me. Zhao Chen pulled his hand back at this time and asked meaningfully, do you remember what happened in the strange domain before? Zhao Chen had already thought about what identity to use to get along with Yan Hongxia after she woke up, and he also had a preliminary plan. It would definitely not work to pretend that he knew nothing. After all, Yan Hongxia had sold herself to him and could not disobey his orders or hurt him in any way. It was impossible for Yan Hongxia to not notice such a big abnormality. It was also not advisable to directly admit that he was the master of the Star Chariot who signed a sale contract with her. If she knew that the mysterious and powerful Lord of the Star Chariot was just a rookie in the realm of true energy, even if she couldn't resist herself, she would inevitably feel unwilling and easily cause trouble. After all, people only don't have too many small thoughts when facing an existence far superior to themselves. Therefore, Zhao Chen's plan is to disguise himself as an apostle or favored person of the Lord of the Star Chariot. It is reasonable for a great being to temporarily give his possessions to his favored ones. On the other hand, when Yan Hongxia heard the word strange domain, she was completely stunned, and related memories also emerged in her mind like a tide. After killing the family of Jiaozi, she found that there was a cultivator with the 9th level of mana behind Bingquan town, and she was seriously injured and had to take the risk of escaping at night. She was trapped in the strange domain near Jinjia County and struggled to survive in it. In desperation, she heard the voice of the great being named Lord of the Star Chariot and had no choice but to trade with him and sold her ownership to the other party for 10 years. Afterwards, a monk with magical powers broke into the strange domain and rescued me. So those were all true? I have sold myself to an unknown and terrifying existence. The future is no longer under my control. Thinking of this, Yan Hongxia's face changed continuously. Even though she had analyzed that the Star Chariot Lord might not be an evil god, when she sold herself, it was just self-consolation. After all, even the demons of the Xinjiang temple would disguise themselves as gods and buddhas with excellent appearance when they appeared in front of the world. And since this little brother Chen mentioned this matter, it means that he has a relationship with the Star Chariot Lord. So I can't use magic on him? With this thought, Yan Hongxia looked at Zhao Chen with complicated eyes. Who would have thought that a little guy who was forced to be used by her a few days ago would ride on her in the blink of an eye? Well, this metaphor is not very good. It should be said that I'm likely to follow his lead. Fortunately, I don't hate him, and from my observation, he is not an evil person. Thinking this in her heart, the nervous expression on Yan Hongxia's face finally eased, and she regained her former beauty. Zhao Chen, no, Lord Zhao Chen, are you a follower of the Lord of the Star Chariot? Yan Hongxia asked carefully. Zhao Chen smiled, but did not answer directly. He just said, Sister Hongxia, just call me Zhao Chen as before. Well, I saw you falling from the clouds in Jinjia County, and then I found that your soul was trapped in the strange realm, so I asked my lord to rescue you. Of course, my lord's action is not without cost, so I have to wrong you, Sister Hongxia, for 10 years. But please rest assured, I have asked my lord to transfer your ownership to me, and my lord's other followers cannot ask you to do things at will. And I usually won't force you to do things you don't want to do. That's not bad. What a ghost. What good can it be for me to fall into the hands of a little pervert like you? I saw your hand as soon as I woke up. Forget it. Zhao Chen saved me after all, and it is much better to be in his hands than in the hands of a stranger. After comforting herself, Yan Hongxia thought for a while and asked tentatively, my lord, what kind of existence is he? Or, which Shengsuan true lord or supreme Taoist lord is he? She has seen the Dongsuan true lord of the Li family, and compared with the power of the Lord of the Star Chap, his level is not at the same level at all. So she guessed that the Lord of the Star Chap is a true lord or a Taoist lord. How should I know? Zhao Chen complained in his heart, but he had already thought about how to deal with this, so he smiled and said, "Feel your own mana first." Yan Hangxia was a little confused, but she did as she was told. Soon she was pleasantly surprised to find that, although her total mana had decreased a lot and had just entered the 3rd level, her quality had made a leap, and it actually had a hint of mystery. She didn't know that the mystery was the Teichu true meaning. Yan Hangxia widened her eyes and looked at Zhao Chen and found that he was also running his true ki with all his strength at this time. In an instant, the breath that made her feel extremely close became several times thicker. I cultivated the most pure 5 immortal spiritual true ki, which was passed down from the Teichu orthodox tradition. Before, your soul was isolated by a foreign power. When I used true ki to explore, I found that your mana true ki could actually practice with my true ki on its own to improve its quality. And this kind of improvement is good for erasing the power outside your soul. So I have been practicing dual cultivation with your true essence these days, not intentionally taking advantage of you. After all, the middle dimension is the secret storage of ki, and it is the easiest place for the exchange of true ki. Zhao Chen said this while stirring up the true ki. He deliberately displayed the 5 immortal spiritual ki and said these things to mislead Yan Hangxia's thinking, so that she would associate the Lord of the Star Chariot with the 9 veins of Kunlun of the Taoist primordial master, and the improvement of her own magic power is a clear proof. This way, it is both face-saving and will not make her too daunted and afraid. After all, the Taoist primordial master is not an evil god. But who would have thought that Yan Hangxia's first reaction after hearing these words was dual cultivation? We have practiced dual cultivation before. Sister Hangxia, you are focusing on the wrong thing. Zhao Chen complained in his heart, but on the surface he explained, it's just the dual cultivation of magic power and true ki. Just when he said this, he found that Yan Hangxia was staring at the place under his feet, and her cheeks turned red again. Zhao Chen was a little strange, and he looked down, and then he saw a box of Hua Shenzang new condoms lying there quietly. It was when Aunt Lin stuffed it into his pocket when he went to the restaurant to find Qi Fimeng before, and who would have thought that it fell out when Yan Hangxia stood up and fought with him just now. Sister Hangxia, I said this is a misunderstanding, can you believe it? Chapter 84 The Beginning. Yan Hangxia was well aware of her own body's condition. She knew that Zhao Chen probably hadn't done anything too extreme. At most, he had robbed her of some of her true essence through the so-called double cultivation. Otherwise, her mana would not have regressed to the level of the first 3 transformations. But her mana and true essence were also transformed because of this. Overall, she still made a profit. However, the double cultivation itself meant that her true energy and spiritual consciousness must have traveled throughout her body. From the inside out, her body was probably no longer a secret in Zhao Chen's eyes. Although Yan Hangxia was a woman of the Jianghu, as a typical Daxia girl, she would feel shy, even if Li Ziling touched her body, let alone such double cultivation. If she didn't dislike Zhao Chen, but felt close to him, and if he was a follower of that great being, she would have wanted to fight him to the death. Moreover, this guy also carries that kind of thing with him. Obviously he has no good intentions towards me, and the master of the Star Chariot handed me over to him. The more Yan Hangxia thought about it, the more she felt that she might not be able to escape from Zhao Chen's clutches. Various terrible scenes flashed in her mind, and her cheeks became hotter and hotter, as if she was really stained with red clouds. Although she is an unmarried girl, Yan Hangxia has been handling cases for several years, and is not unfamiliar with this kind of thing. She took a deep breath, and decided not to provoke Zhao Chen too much, lest he do her on the spot, so she nodded and said, I believe you should put it away. Sister Hangxia, you don't look like you believe it at all. After Zhao Chen complained in his heart, he squatted down to pick up the small box, and put it back in his pocket. As the owner of Yan Hangxia, he could actually know what she was thinking, but Zhao Chen did not deliberately try to find out. After all, although he had asked Yan Hangxia to sell herself out, there was a component of revenge, but it was more of a matter of urgency. Since he had already collected a lot of interest and there would definitely be more benefits in the future, he did not want to oppress her too much. Seeing Zhao Chen put away the box of things, Yan Hangxia finally breathed a sigh of relief. After she calmed down, her IQ finally came online. From Zhao Chen's actions just now, She guessed what he meant. In other words, the Lord of the Star Chariot is likely to be a true lord under the seat of the Taechudeo Lord? She was about to ask, but was interrupted by Zhao Chen. Just understand it in your heart, don't say it out loud. If I ask, I have to give an answer. How embarrassing it would be if I was exposed in the future. It's better for you to fill in the blanks yourself, so that there will be room for maneuver. Zhao Chen thought to himself. I can't say it out loud. Is this a taboo? That's right. Taechudeogen disappeared, and the hundreds of countries in the western regions turned into an endless desert where people would get lost in the end of the ancient times. This is a big secret that no one knows the reason. Now there is a Kunlun Zenjin who is active in the name of Star Chariot Lord. Obviously, he has his own purpose, and if he speaks out, it may be detected by the existence of the same level as him, right? Yan Hongxia's heart trembled, and she didn't dare to mention anything about Star Chariot Lord anymore. Instead, she asked, does the master have any instructions for me? No, for now, just follow me, and follow my orders. Zhao Chen smiled and replied, I'm afraid of your orders. Forget it. As I said, it's better than dying, and it's better than falling into the hands of strangers. Yan Hongxia sighed resignedly. She never thought of resisting Star Chariot Lord, or getting rid of Star Chariot Lord by other means. At the moment of signing the contract, this idea would not have occurred to her mind. Unless her strength can surpass the current contract strength of Dairi Crossing Chariot. After a few seconds of silence, Yan Hongxia suddenly remembered something and spoke again. By the way, Zhao Chen, how long did I sleep before? 7 days. Today is already the 2nd day of April. Zhao Chen replied. I actually slept for so long. I hope I didn't delay anything. Yan Hongxia said here, stood up again, looked at Zhao Chen and pleaded, can I go to the Daoguan office first? I'm afraid something happened in Bingquan town. I have to report to the examination envoy. The examination envoy is a Taoist official of the 6th rank and the highest official of the Daoguan office in Newman County City. He has the cultivation of the supernatural power realm. However, because he is a Taoist official, all kinds of information are confidential, so he is not included in the human outstanding people list. Examination envoy. He is probably not a human, otherwise he would not have come to the previous battle against the evil thoughts of Golden Cicada. Although thinking so in his heart, Zhao Chen did not refuse Yan Hongxia's request, nodded and said, you just do your own things on weekdays. I will take the initiative to find you, if I have something. He paused here, and added, by the way, your soul was isolated by a foreign force before, and you could only rely on your own true energy to slowly consume it, as if your awakening time was deliberately delayed. And our dual cultivation made you wake up earlier. He felt that, if there really was a mastermind behind the scenes, perhaps this was the key to breaking the deadlock. Yan Hongxia was obviously also an experienced person. She immediately understood what Zhao Chen was hiding, nodded and said, I see. Thank you. After that, she asked Zhao Chen to return the gold hairpins and other items she carried with her, and then she quickly walked out of Zhao Chen's room, and then flew towards the Taoist office with clouds under her feet. Zhao Chen looked at Yan Hongxia's fleeing figure, blinked, and said to himself, why do I feel that Sister Hongxia is a little afraid of me? In a secret room in Bingquan town, Lord Tiger, dressed in a black robe, looked around at his men, and said in a heavy voice, Crocodile's breath has disappeared, and Bear has also lost contact with me. Things may be exposed at any time. We can't wait any longer. Let's officially start the action tonight. Let the detectives of the government office block all the main roads of the 2 towns and 1 township in the name of arresting the criminals who attacked the garrison, and let the Snake Gang and other gangs control the small roads. No one is allowed to enter but not leave. Destroy the Lee family's wireless telegraph machine, and then cut the wired telegraph line connecting to the county town. Early tomorrow morning, let the Zhao family of Bingquan, the Chen family of Chijin town, and the Lin family of Jinwen send people to organize an ancestor worship activity at the foot of Chijin mountain, and actually take the opportunity to arrange the sacrificial ceremony. After giving some instructions, Tiger glanced at Fox beside him with cold eyes and asked, have you confirmed the key? Fox was frightened and nodded quickly, yes. Then Li Ziling can't be kept. Get rid of her as soon as possible, and be careful not to make a big noise. Tiger paused here and reminded, she may have the life-saving things left for her by Yan Hangxia, and there may be spies from the government office among her personal maids, so don't be careless. This was also the main reason why they had not taken action against Li Ziling before. But now that they were fully prepared and were about to take action, they did not have to worry so much. Yes, Lord Tiger. The masked fox nodded obediently, but she did not agree in her heart. Li Ziling was just an ordinary person. If Lord Tiger had not forbidden her, she would have killed him long ago. Chapter 85, Fortune Goddess. The Black Cloud Martial Arts School is located in the east of the county city, in a relatively wealthy residential area. It is usually quiet here, but today there are many people coming and going, and it is very lively. It is probably because of the battle for a trade route between the Golden Escort Martial Arts School, the Sun Escort Agency, the Green Snake Martial Arts School, and the Black Cloud Martial Arts School, that the Human Chamber of Commerce decided to set up here. The Black Cloud Martial Arts School is called a martial arts school, but in fact it is a large courtyard with 4 entrances, but the area of the front yard is particularly wide, used as a martial arts training ground for apprentices who pay to learn martial arts, and the back 3 entrances are for the owner and her disciples. A ring covering more than half of the yard was set up in the martial arts field, and several pergolas were set up around the ring for the people from the 2 martial arts schools and the escort agency to rest. In front of the main house on the north side, there are 3 mahogany armchairs, which are reserved for the famous human martial arts masters who serve as witnesses of the martial arts competition. At this time, 2 people were sitting on the armchairs, one on the left and one on the right, leaving only the one in the middle empty. The one on the left was a middle-aged man in his 40s, dressed in a long gown, with a square scarf on his head, dressed like a Taoist priest, holding a whisk in one hand and a purple bamboo flute in the other. The one on the right was a woman who looked to be in her 20s. Her appearance was only average, but her temperament was excellent. Her every move showed the demeanor of a lady from a noble family, giving people a very good first impression. The people of Daksha value martial arts, and almost every household hopes that their family can produce a cultivator in the realm of true energy, so such occasions are naturally full of people watching the fun. He King Jiao, the second owner of Shenmu Manor, sitting on the chair on the left, practices the family martial arts King Mu Hua longsword art, and is said to have the 9 orifice cultivation. He is one of the vice presidents of the Human Chamber of Commerce. Well, his elder brother, the first owner of Shenmu Manor, is He Kanglong, the 7th on the human outstanding list, and Meng Zhangjun. The one sitting on the chair on the right is Rouge Tiger Gongfei, who has the 7 apertures cultivation. Don't be fooled by her quiet appearance. This woman looks like a lady from a noble family, but she is very vicious when she fights. Once, a young man from a branch of the Li family flirted with her, and she beat him so badly that he lost his ability to reproduce. In the end, he went to Sima's house in Liangzhou and asked for a cup of Ganlu Baoquin, which allowed him to recover. In addition, she is the younger sister of Gong Yun, the 5th of the 7 heroes of Emonan. Among the people watching the excitement outside, a well-informed bearded man was showing off his knowledge to the other spectators around him. He had a high nose and deep eyes, light blue pupils, and was obviously of Western descent, but he spoke the Great Siam Mandarin very fluently. He was introducing things enthusiastically, but suddenly felt a chill on his neck. He turned around subconsciously and saw the Rouge Tiger he mentioned was staring at his neck across the yard, as if thinking about how to cut. However, in addition to the nickname of Rouge Tiger, Ms. Gongfei also has a nickname of Fortune Attracting Goddess. It is said that she has a very good eye for investment and has never lost money in business. The bearded man quickly changed his words and praised Gongfei a few words. After noticing that the other party's eyes had moved away, he quietly breathed a sigh of relief and directly changed the subject. That beautiful lady in white training clothes over there is the owner of Black Cloud Martial Arts School, MOQIU. It is said that she has opened 2 orifices, but her ki cultivation is not deep. After all, she is only 24 years old and still young. In the pergola opposite her are people from Green Snake Martial Arts School. The burly man on the main seat is the owner, Shishian Lui. He has opened 4 orifices of eyes and ears, and has the highest cultivation among those participating in this competition. Next to Green Snake Martial Arts School is Sun Escort Agency. The man with hands below his knees is the chief escort, Song-san. He is famous for his 3 emperors cannon fist around human, and many horse bandits have to give him face. Opposite the Green Snake Martial Arts School should be the Golden Art Martial Arts School, the current owner of the Trade Road. The Golden Dart Huang Xianjin is also quite famous, having used his bodybuilding skills to defeat the true key and even refine the orifices many times. It's just that he doesn't seem to be here. Has the Golden Art Martial Arts School given up? Upon hearing this, the onlookers all cast admiring glances at the bearded man and praised him one after another. "Old Tang, you're great. You know so much." When the bearded man was praised with pride, someone asked, "Tankid, who is the chair in the middle for?" The bearded man named Tankid touched his chin when he heard this and said uncertainly, "It should be Chakings Hu of the Che family who instigated this martial arts competition. She shouldn't not come, but in front of the fortune attracting goddess and the second mana master she has no right to sit in the main seat. After all, the great mana master behind the second mana master and the I've delusion breaking Gong Yun, the female knight behind the female knight Gong, are also on the human outstanding people list. Could it be that the rumors are true, that the Che family was implicated because of the incident at the Stone Buddha Temple? The people from the Black Cloud Martial Arts School, the Green Snake Martial Arts School, and the San Escort Agency had the same doubts as the bearded man. They all felt worried. After all, this competition was essentially planned by Chakings Hu behind the scenes. However, after seeing that the owner of the Golden Art Martial Arts School Huang did not come at all, they all felt relieved, thinking that the other party had really given up the fight for the trade route. In this case, it would be the 3 of them fighting, and they would not have to worry about offending Yan Hongxia behind the Golden Art Martial Arts School. For a moment, even Moqiu, who just wanted to go through the motions, was a little shaken. In the pergola of the Golden Art Martial Arts School, Feng Kang, who observed this scene, wiped the axe in his hand and said to Zhao Chen beside him, "Junior brother, we have been underestimated. We have to give them a good surprise later." Zhao Chen responded with a smile. Naturally, their conversation could not be hidden from the 2 monks who had opened their ears at the main seat, and they all cast curious glances. "Miss Gong, what do you think?" Here's Zhuang's who turned his head and asked. Gong Fei narrowed her eyes, and a subtle light flashed in her eyes. After a few seconds, she smiled and said, "I don't think the young man is bragging. Oh, miss, you have never failed in your investment, so I will bet 500 strings on him." Here's Zhuang's who stroked his beautiful beard and said, "His odds are the highest, and this deal should make a lot of money. Aren't you afraid that I will deliberately lie to you?" Gong Fei asked with a smile. "Haha, Miss Gong is known as the goddess of fortune, so she is naturally not such a person." Here Zhuang's who laughed. Both of them opened their mouths and could transmit their voices in secret. They were confident that they would not be heard by outsiders, so they talked and laughed without restraint. But who knew that at this time, a cynical voice reached their ears, "And me too." The 2 were startled and looked up, only to see a young man in a green robe, with white powder on his face and dark circles under his eyes, walking in from outside, waving a fan. In a few steps, he crossed the yard, walked to the front of the main room, and sat on the chair in the middle. 7 treasure swords hanging from his waist, green grass envy of spring robe. It turned out to be young master in green robe Li Changsheng. He is the only legitimate son of a supernatural cultivator, and the 6th among the 7 heroes of the South Desert. Even though his cultivation is only at the 9 apertures, it is normal for him to sit in the main seat. The bearded Tankid outside the yard suddenly realized this. Chapter 86, Senior Brother's Fame and the Changes in Bingquin. The young master in green robe Li Changsheng. I have heard of the name of the 7 heroes of the Southern Desert many times since I traveled through time, but this is the first time I have seen one of them. Zhao Chen looked at the young master sitting in the main seat with curiosity and found that under his appearance of lack of energy and blood, there was a little morbid beauty hidden. But he couldn't tell what it was exactly. After all, although Zhao Chen found that his eyes seemed to have more ability to see the essence through phenomena, the effect was actually very weak, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. He guessed that this might be an ability that would only be provided by the subsequent Lion Wei. Now he just wanted to experience it in advance, just like he had the uncontrollable ability to block the fear emotion before he officially became a traveling merchant. When Zhao Chen was thinking, he saw that the young master in green robe Li Changsheng stood up after a brief exchange with the other two martial arts masters, and then pressed the fan in his hand forward. And with his action, the people who were originally noisy around the martial arts field suddenly quieted down, and at the same time, the only sound in the whole yard was the sound of the wind blowing through the flags. This seems to be somewhat similar to the effect of 5 immortal spiritual ki, and it has the meaning of bowing to the heavenly venerable, but the essence is completely different. This will never reflect the beauty of the great Dao. Is the Li family's 5 emperors true sword art applied? But Sister Hangsha doesn't seem to have this ability, and it is said that, although the father of green robe young master Li Changsheng is a cultivator of supernatural powers, he has only cultivated the white emperor's soul-serving sword and the black emperor's blood-passing sword. Or, did Li Changsheng himself take a new path? While thinking in his heart, Zhao Chen saw that young master Li opened his mouth, and his voice was not loud, but spread throughout the yard. The rules of this competition are very simple. The first person to step onto the stage is a champion, and he will accept the challenge of the challenger. If he wins, he will continue to welcome the next challenger as the champion, and if he loses, he will give up the position of champion to the opponent. Everyone has only one chance to attack the stage, and the last person standing on the stage is the winner. In addition, it has been confirmed by San Escort Agency, Green Snake Martial Arts Hall, Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall and Golden Art Martial Arts Hall, that the use of firearms and magic weapons is prohibited in this competition. I won't say much, the competition officially begins now. After saying this, he seemed to have exhausted all his strength, and sat back on the chair panting. As he sat down, the strange aura from before completely disappeared, and the yard became noisy again. The people from Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall, Green Snake Martial Arts Hall and San Escort Agency confronted each other for a moment, and were about to send their disciples to the ring first. Unexpectedly, senior brother Feng Kang jumped directly onto the ring with a mountain-splitting axe. Feng Kang from the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall, please teach me, heroes. He is burly, with broad shoulders and back, and the axe, that is obviously heavy, makes his words look down on everyone. Feng Kang is the third direct disciple of Golden Dart Huang Xianjun, and he is most likely learning the 36 axes of the heavenly gang of Anai Yuan sect. The bearded tankid immediately explained upon seeing this. When Moqiu, Song San and Shishian Lui saw Feng Kang, the strongest disciple of the Golden Escort Martial Arts Hall, take the lead, they all breathed a sigh of relief, and basically concluded that the Golden Escort Martial Arts Hall had given up on that trade route, so they could fight for it with confidence. After all, in this kind of round-robin battle, the earlier you take the stage, the more disadvantages you will suffer. The Golden Escort Martial Arts Hall sent its strongest disciple to take the lead, just to lose in a more beautiful way, and earn some fame for Feng Kang. With this thought in mind, Moqiu and the other two decided to send their own disciples with lower levels to the stage first, let Feng Kang win a few times, and give him enough face, before letting him leave. However, the 3 hall owners and escort leaders, who thought they were old hands in the arena, were soon slapped in the face for their safe approach. Because although Feng Kang had only entered the realm of true ki not long ago, his foundation was extremely solid, especially the 36 Xiangang axe techniques which he had practiced for more than 10 years, and had already entered the hall. Even without true ki, relying on physical strength alone made it difficult for the disciples of 2 martial arts halls and 1 escort agency to resist. If they had not held back, the arena would have been a river of blood. After more than 10 disciples were knocked down by one move, Moqiu, Song San and Shishian Lui could no longer hold their faces. Although they wanted to give face to the Golden Escort Martial Arts Hall, their own disciples were so vulnerable in front of them that they almost lost their face, which might affect the trust of their customers in their own company. After all, the last few who went up were already their core disciples, but their strength was relatively weak. Shishian Lui, the owner of the Green Snake Martial Arts Hall, was the first to lose his temper. He winked at a man around 30 years old beside him, and the latter immediately understood. With a clang, he drew out his single sword, and jumped onto the arena. I'm Chen Zhen from the Green Snake Martial Arts School. The man said his name after he clasped his fists slightly, and then he started to move his body to circle around Feng Kang. Feng Kang sneered at this and just stood there with his axe, letting the other party jump up and down. The green snake leg technique of the Green Snake Martial Arts School is known for its speed and flexibility. Chen Zhen did not fight Feng Kang head on, but chose to fight in a mobile way, obviously trying to play to his strengths and avoid his weaknesses. Although Chen Zhen has not yet cultivated the acupoints, his progress in true ki is better than Feng Kang's, and his instantaneous explosive power will not be weak. Once he finds an opportunity, Feng Kang will be in danger. Tankid, who was outside the yard, saw this scene and explained it to the spectators around him again. But before he finished speaking, he saw Chen Zhen seize a floor and rushed forward, attacking Feng Kang's back with a single knife, and victory seemed to be just around the corner. But who would have thought that at this moment, a cold axe light would strike out from an incredible angle, like a thunderbolt that came first and stopped in front of Chen Zhen's neck. The sword cuts the evil dragon and clears the dam. The axe splits Xiang Liu and shakes the sky. This is one of the killer moves in the 36 Xiangang axe techniques. Xiang Liu's head surrender. If Chen Zhen had not also achieved success in true ki and cultivated spiritual perception, he would have taken the initiative to hit the blade and buried under the axe. The scene froze for a while, and after a while, Chen Zhen stepped back with an ugly face and said, "I lost. Great. Well done." It was not until this time that most of the spectators around came to their senses and cheered for this amazing blow and cheered for Feng Kang, who became famous in one battle. You must know that Chen Zhen is not an unknown person. With the green snake leg technique, he has won more than lost in several similar competitions before, and he can be regarded as a little master. But today, with this beheading blow, Feng Kang became famous by stepping on Chen Zhen. At least he had a place in Human County. But Moqiu, Shishai and Li and Song San were in a bit of a dilemma at this time. There were almost no disciples stronger than Chen Zhen among them. At most, they were equal. Sending them up would be a humiliation to themselves. They might not even be able to consume Feng Kang's physical strength. The three of them would definitely win if they went up, but they would probably consume a lot of true energy, and they might be taken advantage of by others later. So, for a while, no one chose to attack. At the same time, in the Zhao family mansion in Bingquan town, Li Zhiling, the stepwife of the head of the family, Zhao Song, looked at the head that rolled to her feet, and her face turned pale. A charming chuckle followed. Li Zhiling, do you think the people you arranged can really leave Bingquan? Chapter 87 Escape. Looking at the head that rolled to her feet, and the face full of disbelief, Li Zhiling covered her mouth to prevent a scream from coming out of her mouth. But the violent shaking of her arms still showed the fear in her heart. No matter how smart and skillful she was only in her early 20s and had always been well protected. She was not as accustomed to blood and fighting as her close friend Yan Hongxia, and the owner of the head at her feet was one of the maids she sent out to report the news. A month ago, Li Zhiling had already discovered that there was something wrong with the person next to her. Not only had she not touched her for a long time, but she also allowed Erlang Zhao Chen to put himself in danger and used him as bait to lure out Aunt Mei and the people from Xingyan Temple. This seemed nothing on the surface, and it was a very calm and correct approach. But Zhao Chen was the biological son of her husband Zhao Song, and even Aunt Mei had served him for many years, so it was impossible for her to have no feelings. As a result, she watched her fall into such a situation. This kind of indifference makes Li Zhiling feel chilled when she thinks back now. So she deliberately asked her good friend Yan Hongxia to investigate the matter. On the one hand, she could control the situation within a certain range and avoid bringing bad influence to the Zhao family. On the other hand, it was also a test for her husband. Zhao Song did not object at the time, but happily accepted it, which made Li Zhiling put down her suspicion and even said a few good words for her husband in front of Yan Hongxia. But a series of events after Yan Hongxia left Bingquan made the seeds of doubt in her heart sprout again. First, Zhao Song began to favor a maid in the family to the point of having fun every night, and even did not see his son off when he left Bingquan. In Li Zhiling's impression, her husband had never been so obsessed with that kind of thing, but often felt powerless. What made her even more panic was that when she was taking care of her father who was assassinated and injured in the garrison a few days ago, she found that all the confidants around her father had been replaced, and her father himself was also mentally abnormal. She wanted to tell her husband about this, but when she asked someone to call Zhao Song over, she suddenly realized that the people around her husband were also new faces who had only appeared in the past 3 months, and those old people were either assigned to Dalang and Erlang, or took leave for various reasons, and they were more or less related to the favored concubine. After Li Zialing came to her senses, she carefully recalled the changes in the 2 towns and 1 village in recent months, and was shocked to find something even more terrifying. That is, a group of people in charge in the Chijin area, whether in the officialdom or in the underworld, had recently been replaced, so that she didn't know who to ask for help now. Why was such an obvious abnormality not noticed by anyone? Was it because the person behind the scenes was too secretive, or had the people who noticed the abnormality been cleared? Li Zialing, who felt like she was falling into an ice cave, had no choice but to use the spy from the Daoguan office, left by Yan Hangxia, and asked her to go to Human with a letter for help. In order to confuse people, she also sent 7 or 8 maids and servants as cover. But now, the head of the spy from the Daoguan office has rolled to her feet, and the secret letter has obviously not been sent out. Li Zialing, do you think the person you arranged can really leave Bingquan? At this time, a charming voice came into her ears. Li Zialing looked up and saw a woman about 15 or 16 years old walking into her room with graceful steps. Her appearance was beautiful and elegant, and her skin was smooth and tender, which made people feel inexplicably impulsive at first sight. The person who came was Xiangsu, the maid favored by her husband recently. You are not Xiangsu. Li Zialing looked at her calmly for a few times and shook her head. Xiangsu was one of her dowry maids. Li Zialing was very familiar with her. Although she looked the same as the person in front of her, her temperament was very different. Of course I'm not. Xiangsu laughed strangely, then stretched out her hand to grab her face, and immediately tore off a piece of human skin, revealing another beautiful face inside. Seeing this, Li Zialing felt a chill in her heart, because the human skin and the other party's hand still had dried blood stains, and it was probably peeled off from the real Xiangsu's face. As a member of the Li family, although Li Zialing's cultivation talent was not high, her knowledge was definitely not low. She immediately thought of the disguise spell of a certain evil organization, which used the skin peeled alive as a casting material to replace the appearance of the skin's owner. Demon Fox shape-shifting spell. You are from the 4 Evil Hall. Li Zialing said affirmatively. At the same time, she also clasped the jade talisman given to her by Yan Hangxia in her hand. Xiangsu did not answer, but walked forward a few steps, looked at Li Zialing, and said with a smile, Li Zialing, you may not know that I have always been jealous of you. As a concubine of a big family, why can you be favored and marry a husband who loves you very much, but I'm bullied and have to fight and rob everything by myself? So, the moment I came to Bingquan town and sneaked into the Zhao family, I decided to destroy you. Unfortunately, Lord Tiger has always forbade me to act rashly, otherwise I would definitely let you try what it feels like to have a little red lips tasted by thousands of people. At this point, she suddenly laughed morbidly and continued, however, your husband tastes very good. He has served me very well these days, and I will be merciful and let him live until I can personally send you and his 2 children to the altar. Li Zialing was able to remain calm after hearing the previous words. Even when the woman opposite her criticized her husband, she remained calm. After all, her husband was most likely seduced by magic, but after learning that her children would be sent to the altar, her face finally changed, and she asked sternly, what have you done to my Zia and Mayana? Haha, you're finally anxious. I like the way you are now. Xiangsu laughed nervously again, and then said, you are going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter if I tell you. Our 4 Evil Hall will soon offer a blood sacrifice in the Red Gold region to open the seal of the soul of Lord Red-Bearded Dragon, and your 2 children are the most important materials for making the key to unlock it. After saying that, she looked at Li Zialing's face again, wanting to see the expression of pain and despair on it. Her favorite thing to do is to let these happy little bitches fall and let them suffer the pain she had suffered. But who would have thought that Li Ziling did not do as she wished, but directly raised her hand and threw the jade talisman that had been prepared for a long time at her head. The jade talisman instantly turned into a red sword energy and shot towards Xiangsu. But Xiangsu had long known that Xianhangsha had left Li Ziling a life-saving thing, so how could she not be prepared? Moreover, the sword energy transformed from the jade talisman was ultimately just a dead object. Although it had the ability to track breath, it was still too rigid without anyone controlling it, so Xiangsu just relied on her flexible body to change direction several times in a row and dodged it. However, when she looked at Li Ziling's position again, she saw the other party triggering the mechanism, and the whole person in the chair fell into the secret passage together. When she rushed to the closed mechanism, she was still a step too late. Li Ziling, you can't run away. Xiangsu thought of the punishment that Lord Tiger might give her, and said hatefully. At the same time, she raised all her true energy, smashed the entrance of the mechanism on the ground with a palm, looked at the exposed dark passage, and jumped down. Oh. However, the next moment, screams continued. In another room of the Zhao family, the head of the family, Zhao Song, dropped a chess piece, muttering, Ziling's chance of survival lies in the abnormal spirit of that stupid woman fox. Chapter 88 Ziling's death. After entering the secret passage, Li Ziling immediately activated all the traps, but she knew that arrows, poisonous smoke and other things were fine for ordinary warriors, but it was difficult to achieve the desired effect for a member of an evil organization. At most, it would buy her some time to escape. Moreover, even if the fake Xiangsu died in the trap, there would definitely be other people from the Four Evils Hall chasing her, and she would still not have much time left. Although the secret passage leads directly to the giant outside the city, there may be people from the Four Evils Hall near the dock, and they may still be caught. And Mana and Zia are still in their hands, and they are about to become sacrifices, so they can't be abandoned. So, the only hope is. While thinking, Li Ziling's delicate face was full of determination, and she quickly walked along the fork of the secret passage into a hidden room. The room was very small, with only a stone table with the 9 square grid painted on it. Li Ziling stretched out his hand and calmly tapped the 9 grids in a certain order. Then, with the sound of gears turning, the stone platform unfolded by itself, revealing a jade bottle containing a pill. This is the Supreme Induction Pill. The Zhao family's treasure, a magical pill that can allow people to step into the realm of magic power in one step, or it can be directly torn apart by the vitality of heaven and earth. Fang Zuzi had planned for a long time in order to steal this pill from the Zhao family. Li Ziling had known that this pill was stored here, but he never thought that one day he would actually use it. Take this pill, either gain the power to turn the tables, or die directly. 9 deaths is not enough to describe the risk. But I have no choice. Thinking of this, Li Ziling listened to the footsteps getting closer and closer behind him, and directly picked up the red pill, and put it in his mouth. On the passenger ship that was about to arrive at the dock of Bingquan Town, the young man Zhaokin, with rosy lips and white teeth, was leaning on the railing, watching a couple on the deck, who were originally in love quarreling over a trivial matter, which then turned into a fist fight. Just when they were about to kill each other, they suddenly came to their senses, apologized to each other, and repented of their previous recklessness. At this time, Zhaokin also retracted his gaze, with a strange look in his eyes, thinking in his heart, has anyone nearby taken the Taishang induction pill? TSK. After the ancient times, there are still ordinary people who dare to take this pill. Aren't they afraid of being torn apart by the vitality of heaven and earth? So that's it. Have they reached a dead end? The people from the Four Evil Hall, they want to unlock the seal of the red-bearded dragon's split soul. The original body of the red-bearded dragon was not destroyed by the human Taixio Daochen, and he actually still has a split soul in the world. It's hard to say. As far as I know, when the nations were in turmoil more than 8,000 years ago, the red-bearded dragon did descend upon Emperor Tezu of Song as a split soul. In other words, behind every nation in the turbulent times, there is a supreme being supporting it. But Emperor Tezu Zhao specialized in the Demon King binding great magical power of the Kunlun Zikafang lineage. He didn't want to become a part of the red-bearded dragon, so he used this magical power to imprison the red-bearded dragon in his body, and finally sealed it in the Red Gold Mountain. Perhaps this is a reason why the Red Gold Mountain has an abnormal red copper color. So that's how it is. The four evil Hall used the government to clear out the base of Mizingayang Temple in Bingquan Town, just to reap the benefits for themselves. This girl who took the Taishang induction pill is also unlucky. Her husband is a descendant of the Zhao Song dynasty, and she herself has some red-bearded dragon bloodline, which should be from her mother's family. So her two children, a son and a daughter, just happened to become the key to unlocking the seal. It seems that it's not all bad luck. This is designed by humans. Haha, so interesting, so interesting. Her husband and father are very calculating. It is estimated that she has not been able to practice because of human intervention. Otherwise, with the bloodline of the red-bearded dragon, once awakened, there must be all kinds of magical powers. In this case, I can't let her die so easily. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a lot of fun? Although it is extremely dangerous to use the Taishang induction pill to receive the heaven and earth in this era, the existence sensed by the Taishang induction does not necessarily have to be the heaven and earth, it can also be a high level existence like me. Thinking of this, a virtual image of monster with a human body and a snake head rose faintly behind Zhaokin's mind and pointed in the direction of the Zhao family mansion. Moreover, the red-bearded dragon has fallen for a long time, and his soul is at most the Demon King. Oh, in the human world it should be called the second realm of Dangsun, the level of Dharma body and Tao body. How can you taste this delicacy with peace of mind if you don't muddy the water a little? In the secret passage underground of the Zhao family, Li Ziling was now dying due to the torture of the fierce vitality of heaven and earth. Her clothes were torn to pieces, her flesh and blood were blurred, and she felt that she might be torn to pieces in the next moment. But at this moment, she vaguely saw a giant dragon, and then the violent vitality suddenly became controllable, and constantly repaired her damaged meridians, and gradually condensed into true essence and magic power. I got 2 spells. They are the Yang Gang spell 1000 miles sound transmission, and the Yinsha spell dragon power. Li Ziling had just felt herself when she saw the embarrassed Xiangsu chasing in. Her hair was disheveled, and her face and arms were covered with scars. It was obvious that the mechanism at the entrance of the secret passage had caused her a lot of pain. Seeing Li Ziling, who was covered in blood, but not a single piece of clothing, Xiangsu was stunned at first, then laughed grimly, and was about to mock. But soon, she stood there trembling all over, and her crotch became wet at a speed visible to the naked eye. She could only watch Li Ziling snatch the gun from her hand, and put it against her temple. Go to hell. Li Ziling's expression no longer had the previous tranquility and elegance, only endless indifference. Bang! With a gunshot, Xiangsu or Fox with her head shattered fell in a pool of blood. About 5 minutes later, Tiger, with a murderous look on his face, entered the secret passage and saw Fox, who had been stripped of her clothes and had lost her head. With a thought, Fox's body stood up on its own, and its fragmented head pieced itself together bit by bit, appearing on her neck. The next second, Fox opened her eyes and said in panic, "Master Tiger." Waste. Tiger cursed angrily. You should be thankful that the other party has just achieved magical power and has not yet learned how to use true essence to erase your soul. I'm sorry, Master Tiger. Fox knelt down hurriedly. I'll go after Li Ziling now. No need. Tiger waved his hand. A trace of haze appeared on his face and continued. I had already dealt with her before I came here. However, she seemed to have conveyed some message before she died. We have to speed up the progress. Human County City, Daoguan office. After learning that Master Examination Envoy would not be able to return in a short time, Yan Hongxia's eyes showed a trace of worry. But suddenly, the expression on her face rose. Because just now, she actually heard the voice that Ziling conveyed before his death. For Evil Hall, apostrophe red-bearded dragons apostrophe soul, Demon King's relics. This can't do. We must report it to Senior Li Fuan immediately. This is not something that we Inhuman can handle alone. It's a pity for Ziling. Thinking of this, Yan Hongxia's sadness was strong, but it was soon replaced by determination. Then, she set up the clouds and flew directly to the Li family's residence in the north of the county city. The title clearly has a question mark. Why do so many people still think that Li Ziling is dead? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89 next. East of the county city, Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall. After seeing Feng Kang defeat Chen Zhen, the owner of Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall, MOQIU, the chief escort of San Escort Agency, Song San, and the owner of Green Snake Martial Arts Hall, Shishai and Loi, thought they could win, but they didn't want to let others reap the benefits, so no one attacked the ring for a while. Seeing the situation deadlocked, the three masters on the main seat were about to urge, but they didn't expect a figure to walk out of the awning of the Golden Escort Martial Arts Hall and then stepped onto the ring. This man was not very old, with a dignified appearance, wearing a hero scarf on his head, wearing a black training suit, holding a long sword in his hand, and a long sword with a sheath on his back. He was extraordinary and majestic. He was not someone else, but Zhao Chen. What? Junior brother Chen also wants to fight with me? Seeing Zhao Chen, Feng Kang, holding a big axe, smiled generously. I just think that senior brother has fought more than 10 games in a row, and it's time to take a break. Leave it to me later, Zhao Chen said with a smile. This was exactly what Feng Kang wanted. It seemed that he had defeated Chen Zhen easily, but the killer move he used, Xiang Liu Surrender, was powerful, but it consumed a lot of energy, and he could not fight anymore. He was just worrying about what excuse to use to step down, and Zhao Chen came up to build a ladder. So Feng Kang immediately took advantage of the situation and nodded, saying, I'm confident in your strength, so I will just sit back and watch you make achievements. Their actions made everyone present stunned. It was Tankid who was outside the arena who reacted first and explained, Feng Kang's killer move just now had a hint of magic, so it must have consumed a lot of energy, and he could not fight anymore. His junior brother came up to make him leave in a decent manner. The onlookers suddenly realized, and someone asked, who is this handsome young man on the stage? It should be the second son of the Binquan Zhao family, the new disciple of the Golden Dart, who may not have practiced martial arts for more than a month. Tankid thought for a while and answered. He seemed to be well informed, even keeping records of people like Zhao Chen who were not famous. Isn't he just here for the sake of formality? Someone said disdainfully. Tankid shook his head and said with a smile, no, it is said that this young man is a seed of cultivation. With the financial resources of the Zhao family, they will definitely not be stingy with ordinary spiritual grains and elixirs. He may have cultivated true ki by now. Really? This second son of the Zhao family is only 14 or 15 years old, and he can achieve true ki. Is true ki so easy to cultivate? Someone didn't believe it and questioned it. You are ignorant, right? Which core disciple of a cultivation family or sect didn't successfully build a foundation in 100 days when he was 14 or 15 years old? Let's not talk about the distant past, just take Hangsha Sword. Her resume is clearly recorded in the human outstanding list. If you buy one issue, you will not ask such a question. Tankid sneered. Although Tankid's voice was not loud, it was very penetrating. At least MOQIU, Song San and Shishai and Lei all heard it. Another key realm, or a cultivation seed. The three of them were shocked at the same time. Although they tried their best to collect intelligence about the Golden Art Martial Arts School, they did not get much information. They only knew roughly that Zhao Chen was a dandy boy who was only 14 years old and was greedy for women. He didn't even know more comprehensively than that idle man who looked like a Westerner. Master, I'll try him first. A girl who looked only 15 or 16 years old stood up and said beside MOQIU. The girl had silver hair, slightly red eyes, and three-dimensional and deep facial features, which was very different from the appearance of the women in Daksha. Her name was Ning Meng, and she was the only disciple taught by MOQIU. Although she was also a natural cultivator, for some reason she was unable to practice the visualization methods of the major sects and families, so she had to join the Black Cloud Martial Arts School. However, she was quite talented in the Black Cloud Palm of the Black Cloud Martial Arts School. Although she has not yet refined her orifices, she has practiced the palm method to the highest black cloud realm. MOQIU thought about it, nodded slightly and said, go, but remember not to hurt anyone. After all, she had a private deal with Lin Ruxiang. Hearing this, Ning Meng pouted and said, Master is partial. I may not be able to beat him. Knowing that this disciple's spiritual perception was much stronger than that of ordinary people, and could feel things that others could not feel, MOQIU's heart moved, and he couldn't help asking, do you think you are unsure? The pressure he gave me was much greater than that of the young master Feng just now. Ning Meng replied. Then why did you still want to challenge the ring? MOQIU asked curiously. I don't know why. I just want to get to know him. Ning Meng said with a slightly red face. MOQIU was speechless. Just because of these few words, someone from the Green Snake Martial Arts School had already stepped onto the ring first. He was a 24 to 25-year-old strong man holding a big guandao, full of power. Wang Yi from the Green Snake Martial Arts School, please teach me, young Master Zhao. After introducing himself, the strong man raised his knife and attacked Zhao Chen. However, although this man used a relatively heavy guandao, his foundation was still the green snake leg technique, and the big knife was just a means of attack to match his body technique. The body is like a pine, the legs are like snakes, and when walking, the body moves, but the heart does not move. This Wang Yi has already mastered the essence of the green snake leg technique, and is no weaker than the previous Shenzhen. And he obviously has his own ideas. Is he practicing himself as Guaneri's King Lang Yanyu? It's a good idea, but it's hard for a snake to turn into a dragon. After the offside commentator Tankied sighed, he continued, but even so, Wang Yi's power should not be underestimated. Zhao Chen may be in danger. As soon as he said this, he saw Zhao Chen unsheath his sword, and then he stabbed it casually, and the tip of the sword accurately against Wang Yi's chest, and the latter could do nothing, no matter how he dodged. The King Lan coming out of the sea is unstoppable, and the moon is revealed when the clouds are cleared away. To reflect the universe just this one sword, you can see that Mr. Zhao has obtained the charm of the Taiyi Zuanman sword. Although the Taiyi Zuanman sword is widely circulated in Ganzhou, many people can play a few tricks. It looks ordinary, but very few people can really practice it with charm. This young Master Zhao has neither eyes nor ears, but he can see through the flaws in Wang Yi's moves so accurately. He must be gifted, and his spiritual sense can be released. TSK, in this kind of close combat without the use of muskets, spiritual sense is actually more advantageous than opening the eyes. Seeing Zhao Chen's stunning sword, the young master in the green robe Li Changsheng in the main seat, couldn't help but exclaimed. Haha, with a compliment from you, young master in the green robe, this Zhao Erlang is going to be really famous. His nickname is Green Dragon out of the sea, right? The owner of the Here Manor on the side stroked his long beard and smiled. It seems that this old man can make a lot of money this time. As he said that, he looked at the fortune goddess Gong Fei on the other side and smiled and said, Miss Gong must have seen this scene a long time ago, right? Gong Fei did not answer. She stared at Zhao Chen with a thoughtful look on her face. At this time, Zhao Chen had sheathed his sword and said calmly, next. Chapter 90 Victory and Change. Next. Zhao Chen's voice was not loud, but in everyone's ears, it was like rolling thunder, echoing endlessly, impacting everyone's heart, and shaking their soul. This was not only because the seemingly mighty and strong Wang Yi was defeated so cleanly, but more importantly, Zhao Chen took advantage of the opportunity of winning with a move, combined with his own spiritual perception, to create a kind of momentum. This method was what he learned from Liang Sheng, the Chuang divine sword in the historical mist before, and now it is just a small test, and he is using it to practice. Interesting, this Zhao Erlang not only has a strong soul, but also knows how to use this to oppress his opponent with momentum. If Master Remo, Master Shi, and Chief Escort Song are not prepared, I'm afraid it will be really difficult in the future. The pale-faced green-robed young man Li Changsheng said with a smile. Here, the owner of Manor He next to him, said thoughtfully, I heard that when masters fought more than 100 years ago, there would be a conflict of ki and a secret battle of spirits. Whoever's mind or spirit showed a flaw would find it difficult to exert his own strength and end up in failure. But nowadays, there are indeed very few martial artists who have mastered this kind of skills. That's because the range of spiritual perception is limited, at most 3 or 5 feet away, and it takes a person with a strong innate soul like Zhao Erlang to do it. And now the life and death battles of the martial artists are more focused on firearms, often more than 10 feet apart. So, the key battle can't reach the opponent at all, and the secret method of the mind is rare, so it is naturally abandoned by most people. After all, it's not that easy to cultivate momentum, and talent is also required in this regard. If you have had time, you might as well practice more gunfighting skills, or build a fire gun that suits you better. After Li Changsheng explained with a smile, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he quietly used one of his own life spells, Observation of Life, to check Zhao Chen's fate. His 9 apertures cultivation was just a disguise. His real strength was already at the Gangsha level of the 4th realm of Tongsun. My fate was only a little noble, and there was a catastrophe before. It was with the help of a noble that I could achieve this level of cultivation. The so-called noble should be Mr. Huang. He quickly retracted the spell. After all, the use of life viewing technique was only to check whether Zhao Chen was bewitched by evil spirits, and he didn't really care about fate itself. After all, since the advent of the star god, fate has been unpredictable, and the fate of ordinary people may be controlled by the strong at any time. For example, he, the legitimate son of a supernatural cultivator, a cultivator at the level of Gangsha, can act as the so-called master of fate in this human county city, and a word can determine the fortune of a person. The key to a person's destiny still depends on strength. A strong person will naturally have a strong destiny, and it is difficult to be controlled. It is the most stable composition of destiny. Other wealth, power, and even the favor of superiors, although they also have destiny, and can change their destiny, but compared with their own cultivation, they are like duckweed. One day, they will lose both money and power, or the superiors will change their minds, and they will be thrown into the dust. Therefore, Li Changsheng used this art of life viewing more as an auxiliary and reference, and did not rely on it. But little did he know that Zhao Chen on the stage was also a little confused at this time, and he almost couldn't maintain the momentum he had worked so hard to build, because just now, he received a reminder from Xingcha that he would deduct money, bag Wimingguan mirror, resist peeping once, 100 star coins. Which grandson has nothing better to do than spy on me? Apart from triggering a battle of magical powers, I haven't caused any trouble recently, have I? While Zhao Chen was thinking secretly, Moqiu, Song San, and Shishianlui, who were under the ring, finally came back to their senses. Except for Moqiu, who did not change his expression, the faces of the other two could be said to be extremely ugly. At this point, they also saw that Huang, the master of the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall, did not come in person. He did not give up the trade route as they thought. Instead, he came prepared, and secretly cultivated such a powerful disciple. The sword just now can really be called a model of showing emptiness, opening it with profit, launching it later, and arriving first. Even Shishianlui, who is the strongest, is not 100% sure that he can take it. Where did Master Huang find this monster from? Shishianlui and Song San thought to themselves at the same time. While Moqiu looked at Zhao Chen repeatedly with her beautiful eyes, she smiled and said to the disciples around her, Zhao Meng, do you still want to go up? Ning Meng was eager to try, but soon lowered her head and said, forget it. There are many opportunities to get to know him. There is no need to use a way that humiliates oneself. She had imagined getting to know the other party through sparring, but now it seems that she may be killed in one move, which is not romantic at all. Moqiu nodded, and she also changed her attitude at this time. She no longer thought about seizing the trade route, and was naturally not worried. But she didn't care, which didn't mean that the other two could let it go, especially the Green Snake Martial Arts Hall, which had lost 2 games in a row. It was already very embarrassing. If they admitted defeat, they might be worried about their own people, and even the interests outside the city would be lost. So Shishianlui took a deep breath and jumped onto the stage with a solemn expression. Looking at the strong man with 2 delicate mustaches in front of him, Zhao Chen stood with his hands behind his back, looking indescribably leisurely and unrestrained. He smiled, spoke calmly, and said confidently, "I wonder what weapon Master Shi uses?" He is indeed confident. After all, if he really can't win, he can still borrow the strength of Sister Xingcha. Shi's legs and hands are weapons. Shi shyly answered subconsciously. Hearing this, Zhao Chen's mouth curled up slightly. After all, the other party responded according to his words, which meant that he fell into his rhythm and was oppressed by his momentum. In this case, Chen doesn't need a long sword. As he said that, Zhao Chen took off his sword and threw it directly outside the ring. His swordsmanship was only at the skilled level. Although he gained the charm by relying on the spiritual key of the 5 immortals, he could only rely on spiritual perception to bully ordinary martial artists in the true key realm. After all, under the reflection of spiritual perception, all the opponent's flaws were clear, and any sword strike by Zhao Chen was equivalent to the 9 swords of Dubu. However, the effect of this style of play against a strong man who has opened his eyes and ears and has his own supernatural powers will be greatly reduced. By then, if he strikes too many swords, his true colors will be immediately exposed, and he will be caught by the experienced opponent's flaws. However, Shi shyly did not know this. After Zhao Chen gave up his sword, according to his original character, he should have been angry that the other party looked down on him, but when his momentum was taken away, he only felt that the other party was unfathomable and was sure to defeat him even without a sword. Especially when Zhao Chen slowly stepped forward, one step at a time, approaching him leisurely. Shi shyly felt that every step of the other party was stepping on his heart, in sync with the rhythm of his heartbeat. Dong dong dong. The pressure was getting greater and greater, and a layer of cold sweat secreted on his forehead. He didn't know that Zhao Chen had already used the method of water moon illusion body in his footwork at this time, which further affected his spirit. When Shi shyly was oppressed to the extreme, he finally couldn't bear the uneasiness in his heart anymore, and hastily launched the killer move of Green Snake Leg technique, Green Snake Ghost Shadow. This move should have embodied the word ghost, which was to catch the opponent by surprise, but in the momentum suppression and spiritual confrontation, Shi shyly was obviously at a disadvantage, and his mind had a flaw, and he actually used this move head on. With a pop, it was not Shi shyly who hit Zhao Chen, but Zhao Chen appeared behind him at some point and kicked him off the ring. Shi shyly was not injured. He climbed up in a daze, completely not understanding what had just happened. Suppression of momentum, confrontation of minds, and secret battle of spirits really work. Combined with the spiritual secret technique of water moon illusion body, the effect is even better. Zhao Chen sighed in his heart, while posing with his hands behind his back at a 45-degree angle, and looking up at the sky. At this moment, the audience in the audience woke up from their dreams and burst into a series of exclamations and cheers. Awesome. Heroes emerge from youth. He can defeat Master Shi without a sword. What level can he reach with a sword? He is worthy of being the 15th lover of Xingcha sword on the human outstanding list. It is said that this Zhao Erlangen lost both his parents and grew up with the support of his grandfather. How pitiful. Who would have thought that he could create such a large industry as the Golden Art Martial Arts School by himself, and now he has seized a trade route. The beginning was fine, but the latter part made Zhao Chen more and more confused. When did I become Sister Xingcha's lover? Even if it was, how did you guys know? In addition, wasn't Sister Xingcha ranked 16th on the list of outstanding people? The new issue hasn't come out yet. How come it became 15th? Finally, both parents are dead. You just heard someone say that I'm the second son of the Binquan Zhao family, right? Moreover, isn't the Golden Art Martial Arts School owned by the master? What is going on? Chapter 91. The end of the story. 30 miles west of Binquan town, there are mountains. The mountains are golden in color, but there are red colors of different depths and shades that rise and fall along the mountain. Occasionally, a few clumps of grass emerge, which are more green and full of vitality against the red and gold colors. From a distance, one side is red like clouds, and the other side is golden like sunflowers. The three colors are particularly beautiful under the blue sky. The color is like cinnabar, and the brilliance is like bright clouds. This is it. These rolling mountains are called Chijin Mountain. Binquan Town, Chijin Town, and Jinwan Township are located around this mountain. collectively known as the Chijin area. Although Chijin Mountain looks like red gold from a distance, it is rich in black dragon crystals. Dragon crystals are also called obsidian. They have long been used by practitioners as materials for arranging formations, and are very precious. Before, only Li Hu, who was the garrison commander, was qualified to mine dragon crystals, and even the Zhao family could not get involved. However, after the Four Evil Hall completely controlled the 2 towns and 1 village, the situation changed. The latest batch of dragon crystals mined has not been transported out yet, but a magic array has been set up on the spot. At this time, Tiger brought a dozen of his men, as well as Zhao Song, the head of the Bingquan Zhao family under their control, and the heads of the Chen family in Chijin Town and the Lan family in Jinwen Township who guarded Li Hu, and came to a canyon deep in Chijin Mountain. When dealing with Li Zieling before, Tiger keenly noticed that the woman had used some means to pass on the message before her death, so he did not dare to act according to the previous plan, and immediately brought people to the so-called Demon King ruins. Another black-robed man who had been presiding over the construction of the altar and the array here immediately came up to salute. Tiger waved his hand and asked directly, "How is the progress of the ritual array?" The black-robed man bowed and responded, "The main body of the array has been completed. It only needs to be connected with the arrangements in the 2 towns and 1 village, so that we can perform a blood sacrifice in the 3 places and summon Lord Yazzie to come. It's just that the relevant concealment array has not yet been constructed. It will take about a week." Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Tiger. "There is no time to build a concealment array for you. Immediately connect the 3 cities and start the blood sacrifice." The black-robed man was startled when he heard this and could not help but look up, revealing a face with dry skin and wrinkles. "Lord Tiger, but once it is launched now, it will inevitably alarm the heavenly sword of the Zhang family. Do as I say," Tiger said in an unquestionable tone. After all, the message that Li Zieling sent before he was killed by him might have alarmed the Dongson of the Li family who stayed in Ganzhou. He had to hurry up and release the soul of Lord Red-Bearded Dragon before the other party arrived. The blood sacrifice to summon Lord Yazzie was, on the one hand, to protect his own safety. After all, no one could guarantee whether Red-Bearded Dragon would be completely crazy. Lord Yazzie and Lord Red-Bearded Dragon were mortal enemies. When the time came, with the former holding the hatred, he would have the opportunity to get the remains of the Zhao family's great ancestor, which was his real goal for months of planning. Secondly, if the Dongson of the Li family really came over, he could also let Lord Yazzie take the blame and fight for a chance to escape. Although the haggard man in black robe was reluctant, he had to respond and execute the order of Tiger. And Tiger himself continued to move forward with the rest of his men, and came to a secret door at the end of the canyon. There was originally a hidden mountain in front of the door, where many treasures were placed, but most of the things were sold by Fang Zuzi, who first discovered this place, and a small part fell into the hands of Tiger. Later, in order to open the door, Tiger bombarded it with all his strength, but the door did not move at all, and the mountain collapsed because of it. It was not cleared until a month ago. Looking at the 2 small altars arranged in front of the door, Tiger turned to Zhao Song and Li Hu who were controlled, and ordered expressionlessly, "Put your 2 children on them." Zhao Song glanced at his daughter in his arms, and saw that she was sleeping soundly with a faint smile on her lips. I don't know what good things she dreamed about. Xiao's cuteness and cleverness, Xiao's attachment and coquettishness. Scenes of the past came to his mind, and even if his heart was as hard as iron, Zhao Song couldn't help but waver at this moment. But the arrow is on the string, and it has to be shot. Zhao Song sighed secretly, cut off the last trace of conscience in his heart, and whispered, "Yes." After saying that, he and the guard Li Hu, who was holding his youngest son Zhao Man, placed the brother and sister on the altar separately. Zhao Song's hesitation did not arouse a suspicion of Tiger. After all, no matter how powerful the spell of confusing the mind was, it was impossible for a person to remain indifferent when attacking his loved ones. Although this might very well become an opportunity for the other party to break free from control in the future, Tiger didn't care at all. After all, in his eyes, after the Devil King ruins were opened, people like Zhao Song, Li Hu, and even his other subordinates such as Fox, were nothing more than consumables for exploring the way. When Lord Yazzie arrives, immediately refine the brother and sister into keys to open the ruins. Tiger ordered like this. But what he didn't know was that on a mountain somewhere above him, another pair of siblings were looking down at this scene. They were the brother and sister Zhao Jin and Zhao Qin, who came to Bingquan to seek refuge with the Zhao family by boat from Human. At this time, a beautiful young lady was standing beside Zhao Qin. It was Li Zieling, who had been killed by Tiger. It's just that her eyes were empty at this moment, like a puppet. In the north of the county city, the Li family's residence, Li Fuan, the magical steward of Human, Green Lotus Sword, took time out to meet with Yan Hongxia and listen to her report, and he couldn't help but become serious. Red-bearded dragon, the possible existence of the remains of the Demon King level evil spirits, this is no longer something I can handle. Li Fuan is very aware of his own abilities. The previous golden cicada soul was stopped in time, so it only descended to the level of supernatural power. He couldn't handle it, let alone a Tezu of a chaotic dynasty who sealed the Dark Sun level soul. Not to mention himself, even the proud daughter of the Zheng family would be powerless. With this thought, Li Fuan did not dare to neglect it. He immediately took out a seemingly ordinary jade talisman, recorded the situation of Human in it with his spiritual consciousness, and then activated it with his magic power. In an instant, the jade talisman disappeared. Zhangai Li family, Cheyenne blessed land. A young man with a handsome face and a temperament as sharp as a sword ended his meditation and summoned a jade talisman that broke through the air into his hand. Bingquan Town, Chijin Mountain, 4 Evil Hall, Red-bearded dragon. After reading the contents of the jade talisman, the young man frowned, stretched out his fingers, and began to calculate. At the same time, on the top of a mountain 100 miles outside Jinjia County, a man with gaunt cheeks, white face, red lips, but a dignified look suddenly stood up. Virtual images of stars rose behind his head, casting a layer of bright starlight over the huge palm covering the Chijin area in his vision. Chapter 92, God of Misfortune. Zhangai Li family, Cheyenne blessed land. The sharp and fierce young man calculated for a while, nodded slightly, and thought to himself, on the surface, it seems that a member of the Star Club found the remains of Emperor Tezu of Zhao Song buried in Chijin Mountain by chance, and found some treasures outside the remains, and then took them to Human and Dunhuang to sell, and finally was targeted by the people of the 4 Evil Hall. After the people of the 4 Evil Hall followed Fang Zuzi of the Star Club to the Chijin area, they also discovered the remains, and calculated that the Zhao family in Bingquan Town was a descendant of the Zhao Song royal family more than 8,000 years ago. The key of the remains is likely to be hidden in the Zhao family, so after injuring Fang Zuzi, they used the Zhao family's supreme induction pillar's bait, designed Fang Zuzi to test the real key, and at the same time, with the help of the government, eliminated the Xingguan temple forces in the town. In the process, they also gradually controlled various official and underworld forces in Bingquan Town, Chijin Town and Jinwen Township, and completely controlled the Chijin area. During the period, they were almost exposed several times due to their careless actions, but they made up for it with good luck. It was not until Li Zieling, the wife of the head of the Zhao family, took the supreme induction pill at the risk of her life, and obtained the innate magic spell 1000 miles sound transmission, and passed the news to the county city, that the people of the 4 Evil Hall had to go all out. Of course, it's only on the surface. In fact, there was a scum in my Li family. It discovered the ruins of Chijin Mountain a long time ago, and has been secretly researching for many years. Finally, more than 3 years ago, it was concluded that the key must be refined by a man and a woman with both the Zhao family and the red-bearded dragon bloodline. And he was pleasantly surprised to find that one of his concubines had awakened the red-bearded dragon bloodline not long after. Since no one else knew about this, the scum of my Li family directly sealed his daughter's blood power and erased her elated memories. Then he sought the position of the garrison of Bingquan Town. He also used the excuse of winning over local forces to marry the concubine to the head of the Zhao family as his stepwife. The head of the Zhao family didn't know his purpose at first, but later he was dragged into the pirate ship by him. He was tempted by the remains of Emperor Tezu of Zhao Song, and decided to work with the scum of my Li family, to design a big plan. This attracted Fang Zuzi and the subsequent 4 Evil Halls, who were ready to put the blame on the evil organization for the birth of the Demon King, and the suffering of the people and the sacrifice of their own children. It's ridiculous that the head of the Zhao family didn't know what the key was at first, until the end. Under the guidance of the scum of my family, he thought of his 2 children. Oh, it's too late for him to regret it now. The scum of my family is quite capable. He actually achieved magical powers in secret. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to frequently help those people from the 4 evil halls to deal with the beginning and the end. Humph. In order to get away with the crime afterwards, he also deliberately hired a 100-year-old Gangsha Elm worshipper from the family and leaked his methods so that he would be killed by the people of the 4 evil hall, so that the Taoist officials would mistakenly believe that he had lost protection and was controlled. After sorting out the results of the calculation and confirming that there was no trap, the handsome young man with a sharp temperament stood up, turned into a sword light, and broke through the air. I'm afraid it's too late to completely stop the blood sacrifice, but at least the soul of the red-bearded dragon cannot be born. The red-bearded dragon is a great evil demon. I don't know how much it cost for the Taoist Taixio to kill its original body. If it is allowed to revive with the soul, it will be a great sin. On the top of a high mountain 100 miles away from Jinjia County, the star phantom behind the head of the man with a gaunt face and red lips shattered with a snap. At the same time, the invisible palm that originally covered the sky above the Chijin area also dissipated, as if it had never appeared. Cough. Cough. The man covered his mouth and coughed a few times and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Then he murmured excitedly, "It's hidden. The hardest step is to hide it." Li Zuanhao believed the story I wrote. Chijin Mountain, in a hidden canyon. The tiger in a black robe looked at the blood color spreading in the direction of Bingquan Town, Chijin Town, and Jinwan Township, and couldn't help but said hatefully, if the court hadn't used sweet potato rice to poison the lower class people for a long time, overdrawing their soul potential, causing their souls to lose all their spirituality, and even unable to form ghosts after death, why would I need to sacrifice blood in 3 wealthy towns if I wanted to summon Lord Yazzie to distract his spirit? It would be enough to just find some poor villagers and slaughter them. So, if you want to blame someone, blame the Imperial Court. After saying this, seeing the blood in the air turning into a long river flowing towards the altar of the magic circle in the canyon, Tiger stretched out his hand and pointed, and one of his subordinates, a black-robed man codenamed Jackal, changed his face and showed a pleading expression. But Tiger ignored him and just stared at him silently. Seeing this, the man had to walk towards the altar step by step, even if he was reluctant. Unlike Lord Phoenix who had already left, he and Fox, Snake and others were subordinates in name, but in fact they were all accomplices of Lord Tiger and could not disobey Tiger's orders at all. When Jackal finally walked onto the altar, the black-robed old man who was presiding over the ceremony suddenly chanted a series of incomprehensible spells, and then, a huge blood mist gathered from 2 towns, and 1 village flew towards the altar and Jackal. Cracks suddenly appeared on the surface of the Jackal, and it soon disintegrated into countless flesh and blood, merging with the blood mist that had gathered. Just a few seconds later, accompanied by the violent shaking of the mountains, a giant monster with a jackal body and a dragon head, covered with cracks and blood, as if it was made up of pieces of flesh and blood and organ fragments, was formed. Lord Yazzie. Tiger just shouted respectfully and saw a dazzling sword light flying from the sky. The sword light connected the sky and the earth, as if the pillars of heaven collapsed, and it smashed directly over. The master of the sword is the Dangsha, an ancestor of the Zhang family, who once opened a river with a sword, connecting the snow mountain and human. Li Zuanhao, the sky sword. After the tiger said this name, he sighed with an ugly face. You came so fast. After that, he glared at the fox again. It's all your fault for not doing your job well. The fox shrank his neck and dared not argue. Fortunately, after realizing that Li Zieling had spread the news, he was prepared and summoned the Yazzie Master's spirit in advance. It's just that exploring the ruins will take some risks. Thinking of this, the tiger asked Yazzie to fight the enemy and ordered Zhao Song to kill his 2 children immediately and forge the key with blood to open the ruins. In fact, there was no need for the tiger to ask. After feeling the danger that was enough to hurt himself, Yazzie had already spit out a sword from his mouth and went straight to the sword light that seemed to be pressing down by the 5 mountains. Although the sword seemed extremely small compared to the sword light that connected the sky and the earth, it had obviously reached the Dangsuan level, so it steadily caught the smashing of the sword light, preventing it from advancing any further, after destroying several surrounding hills. At the same time, just as Zhao Song raised the dagger in his hand with a complicated expression, a figure that was extremely familiar to him suddenly came. Xialing, Zhao Song and Li Hu beside him were both surprised. After all, the other party should have died long ago. The tiger was also surprised after seeing Li Xialing, but he quickly reacted and asked his men to entangle her. He also quickly used his spiritual sense to check the surrounding mountains and look for the person behind the scenes. Soon he found the little girl Zhao Jin hiding above the canyon and cast a spell on her without hesitation. At the moment when the tiger turned his head, Zhao Qin walked to the front of the gate leisurely and overlapped with Li Hu's body, waiting for Zhao Song to kill the brother and sister and then take the opportunity to enter the ruins. Although he was strong enough to control the whole situation, being reckless was not his style, and it would easily cause unnecessary trouble. It was better for him to keep a low profile in Daksha. He looked back at Zhao Jin, who was hit by the spell, smiled and shook his head, saying, "Little sister, I'm sorry. Actually, I prefer to wait until you trust me and rely on me, then suddenly betray me and enjoy the intense hatred and regret. But now, there is something more delicious waiting for me." But at this moment, a giant axe over 20 meters long suddenly fell from the sky, passing through the defense circle of Yazi and slashing towards the end of the canyon. And the landing point was exactly where Zhao Qin, who was overlapping with Li Hu's body, was. Is this King Yu's mountain-splitting axe? Zhao Qin's eyes widened when he saw this, and he no longer cared to hide. He instantly turned into a giant python with a human body and a snake head, and resisted the attack. With a bang, the two collided with each other, and then triggered a violent earthquake at the level of a natural disaster, which collapsed most of the peaks of Chijin Mountain. When the smoke cleared, the tiger who had pulled away the stones on his body just showed his head, and saw the giant python with a human face, and a snake body confronting a giant who was more than 10 meters tall. The face of the giant was 70% similar to that of Huang Xianjun. The tiger only took a look at the giant, and countless knowledge rushed into his mind. He thought it was not good, and immediately closed his eyes to cut off the connection between his soul and eyes. But even so, one of his eyeballs exploded, and his soul was also severely damaged. "Old man, you are not dead yet. You come to ruin my good things," the human-faced snake body Zhao Qin said sarcastically. "But your current state is the true body of King Yu that was forcibly condensed, right? TSK, this true body is so weak that it is not even as good as the Dharma appearance of the first realm of Dangsun. How long can you hold on to this state? A quarter of an hour, or 2/4 of an hour? When the true body dissipates, you will definitely die. Mahoraga, do you know how long I have been waiting for you to come to Daksha again? For this, I even sacrificed my own Dangsuan cultivation and predicted the exact location of your arrival this time. As long as I can kill you, it doesn't matter if I die. It's a pity that it takes too much time to condense the true body again. Otherwise I would never let these bastards sacrifice their blood in Bingquan town." The giant who looked like Huang Xianjun roared and chopped down with the giant axe again, and the snake with a human head and a snake body was not to be outdone, and immediately went up to meet it. In 2 battlefields, 4 Dangsuan realm masters fought against each other. When Tiger and Li Hu were seriously injured, no one noticed that Zhao Song had cruelly killed his children. With a key made of blood, he opened the door and entered the ruins. In other words, the Dangsuan existence of the evil side allowed his behavior, and Li Zuanhao and Huang Xianjun wanted to stop it, but they were powerless. However, just a moment later, Zhao Song stumbled out of it, with disheveled hair, tears, and snot all over his face, and roared crazily, "Fake. It's all fake. Fake." The existences were shocked, but then they were horrified to find that the grey-white fog had filled the entire canyon and quickly spread in the direction of 2 towns and 1 village. "This feeling is the relic of the star god!" Exclamation mark. "Trap. This is a trap." The giant snake named Mahorika let out a strange cry and no longer cared about entanglement with Huang Xianjun and fled to the horizon like a fly. But how could its speed be faster than the fog? It was soon dyed into 3 colors of black, white, and grey. Huang Xianjun did not chase it, but just looked at the fog and suddenly said, "The treasure of the star god, the fog of history." So the prophecy of the morning light dyes the red clouds. The water and the moon accompany the 5 fairies. Once the fog rises, all grudges will be returned means this. Trapped in the fog of history, all destinies go back and forth, and always circulate in a period of time, isn't it return? That's good. This will make it more painful than killing it. On a mountain peak 100 miles away from Jinjia County, looking at the Chijin area completely obscured by the fog, the man who once wanted to kill Wang Daoyi from a distance laughed. It's done. Then, he put a pill into his mouth, and then took a step forward, crossing layers of space, and entered the shy and blessed land of the Zhang family. Even if the ground cracks and mountains collapse, hatred cannot be eliminated, and the sins covering 100 miles of the mortal world are submerged. Yang Wanhua is called Wayuru, and the people praise the god of evil. God of evil Song Wayuru visits the Li family in Zhangai and asks for the Li family's treasure, Xianyang Xianmen 2. This chapter is quite long, and I wanted to post it into chapters, but after thinking about it, I decided to forget it. Chapter 93 Special Mission. Evil God. Isn't he a ruthless person who was abandoned by the 10,000 Beasts sect and listed in the Stars and Constellations Divine Power list? It is rumored that he destroyed several cities because of personal grudges, turning 100 miles of land into a dead zone and disturbing several states. The sentence in his poem "The ground cracks and the mountains collapse, it is hard to eliminate hatred, and the sins of 100 miles of mortal world are submerged" is not just talk. In the end, it was the 10,000 Beasts sect that sent out the divine power monks to capture him. But now it seems that he has escaped again. Or did the 10,000 Beasts sect not really catch him at all? After sensing that an outsider monk had broken into the blessed land and hearing Song Wayuru's introduction, 5 divine power monks flew out of their respective caves and surrounded the enemy in secret. In fact, there are as many as 30 divine power monks in Zhang Li's family, including guest elders, but because they need to be stationed in various county cities in Ganzhou, and because there are more and more outbound missions recently, only 5 of them are left in the blessed land. This was nothing at first. After all, with Li Zuanhao at the Dongsuan realm in charge, it didn't matter if there were more or less magical powers. But at this moment, it suddenly seemed a little weak. Several magical powers of the Li family felt that something was wrong. They always felt that there shouldn't be only these few people stationed in the blessed land, as if some important person was missing, but they couldn't remember it for a while. The leader of the 5 magical powers was Li Fuchen, the current head of the Li family. He wore a flat crown, a Taoist robe, red lips and white teeth. He looked only about 30 years old, but he was actually over 60. Li Fuchen looked at the evil god who threatened to take away his family's treasure, Xianyang Xianmen 2, with an extremely solemn expression. "Daoiao's magical powers are amazing. I have heard of it a long time ago. But you broke into my Li family's blessed land for no reason and demanded treasures. Are you bullying my Li family? You know, my Li family also has a Dongsuan. Haha, didn't your Dongsuan master respond to the Holy Land's decree and stay far away in the first island chain to resist the invasion of the East China Sea demons?" Song Wayuru laughed meaningfully, raised his chin, and said arrogantly, "Since she can't come back, what if I bully you?" Hearing his unreasonable words, the face of the clan leader Li Fuchen suddenly showed a thoughtful look. But the other Li family supernatural powers frowned, and the only guest official Zhuo Doran was even more indignant. Since he joined the Li family, he has never been humiliated like this. Therefore, Zhuo Doran immediately shouted loudly, "Song Wayuru, we see that you are from the upper sect's 10,000 Beasts Gate, so we are more tolerant of you, not because we are afraid of you. Do you really think you can deal with the 5 of us supernatural powers? I really don't think you are serious. Today you can hand over the Xianyang Immortal Gate map by yourselves. Otherwise, Song Wayuru, who stood with his hands behind his back, gradually laughed coldly, and a dangerous aura rippled. The air seemed to be stagnant. The strong pressure was increasing little by little, falling on the hearts of every magical cultivator, and it kept increasing. Finally, the guest official Zhao Chen, who was closest to him, couldn't stand it anymore, and was the first to make a move. A gust of dark wind suddenly blew up, sweeping straight towards Song Wuyuru, and there were countless ghost soldiers and generals riding on war horses condensed by black fog. This is the 6th grade magical power soul-devouring dark wind collected by the Li family, which can directly attack people's souls and forcibly detain them. Roar. Almost at the same time, a loud voice like a Huang's Hang Dalu sounded in the void. In the auspicious clouds, an illusory red unicorn suddenly jumped out, opened its mouth, and spit out a flame, directly igniting the dark wind and the ghost soldiers and generals inside. Don't you know that the gap between the supernatural power cultivators is sometimes greater than the gap between mortals and gangsha cultivators? Song Wuyuru's voice was flat. Looking at the ghosts screaming in the flames, he commented condescendingly, "This soul-devouring yin wind of yours should come from the yin demon sect that was wiped out in the past. It is only of the 6th grade, which is too weak. Although the world always says that the 4th to 6th grades belong to the middle grade supernatural powers, in the eyes of the disciples of the upper sect like us, only the 4th grade supernatural powers that theoretically have the hope of advancing to the Dangsuan are considered middle grade. In my Wan Shao sect, any supernatural power disciple who dares to condense a supernatural power below the 4th grade will be laughed at and unable to raise his head for the rest of his life." With disdain on his face, he pinched the magic formula, ignited the flame of the soul-devouring yin wind and instantly rose, directly refining all the ghost soldiers and generals in it. This is the 3rd grade supernatural power, the Killing Holy Fire. Seeing that the flame was about to burn him along the Yinfeng, Zhao Chen used a sanctification magic, but still could not put out the Killing Holy Fire, so he had to call for help from his companions. At this time, the other magical monks also came to their senses. 2 of them used the 4th grade magical power Blow Lotus Sword to attack Song Wuyuru directly in an attempt to encircle Wei to save Zhao, and the other used a 4th grade Heavenly River True Water magical power to try to put out the Killing Holy Fire, but the result was not ideal. Facing the attacking Blow Lotus Sword, Song Wuyuru smiled contemptuously and pulled up 3 sword lights, one like dragon teeth, one like tiger wings, and one like dog gods. Among them, the tiger wings, dog gods and Blow Lotus Sword offset each other, while the dragon teeth directly penetrated the protective divine light of the 2 Li family magical powers, severely injuring the 2 with one blow. This is the 4th grade magical power Blue Sky 3 Evil Swords. The gap between the magical monks is really beyond reason. The power of the sect's true teachings was fully revealed at this moment. The 4th grade Blow Lotus Sword is quite impressive, but it's still very weak. Song Wuyuru glanced at the Li family's magical powers that were invaded by the curse on the Dragon Fang and commented with a sneer. At this time, Li Fuchen, the head of the Li family, finally took action. With a light flick of his long sword, the curse of the Dragon Fang faded away by itself, and the Killing Holy Fire that had spread to Zhao Chen also reluctantly extinguished itself, after resisting for a while. Good. The Li family's 5 emperors paying homage to the true sword is worthy of being a 3rd grade magical power. Although it is much inferior to the 5 emperors paying homage to the true sword of Kunlun Xianyang City, it can also be called quite good. Seeing this, Song Wuyuru clapped his hands, then narrowed his eyes and said, "But if you think you can stop me with this magical power, that's wishful thinking. If you don't hand over the Xianyang Immortal Gate map, don't blame me for disregarding Master Li's face and starting a massacre. Your Excellency is so arrogant. You don't think that my Li family has no background, do you?" Li Fuchen snorted and said to the rest of the clansmen, "Set up the Sky River Sword Formation." The Sky River Sword Formation is the Li family's protective formation. It connects the restrictions of various places in the Sky River Blessed Land. As long as there are 3 supernatural powers presiding over it, it is enough to deal with any enemy below the Dangsuan level. Even the great masters on the Starry Sky magical power list will find it difficult to escape once they are trapped in it. However, just when Li Fuchen activated the Sky River Sword Formation, Song Wuyuru showed a smile of conspiracy on his face. He found the floor of the formation accurately and took advantage of the moment when the restrictions of the blessed land changed, when they were connected, and drilled into the treasure pavilion that was originally protected by the formation. Oh no. How come this thief is so familiar with my Li family sword formation? Li family supernatural power was suddenly shocked and hurriedly stopped the sword formation, but it was too late. Song Wuai went straight to the place where the Xianyang Immortal Gate map was stored and took away this treasure easily. Several supernatural powers hurriedly blocked his way. Seeing this, Song Wuai raised his arm high, clenched his palm into a fist, and used the first half of the power of the first grade great supernatural power Yan Wanhe, Filio Kangsheng, which made all the cultivators present fall into doom. Yang is an ancient god, and disasters will always accompany his appearance. Puff. Immediately, 2 Li family members' magical powers went awry, and they spat out blood. Another one was also attacked by the magical power and almost died. Only Li Fuchen, who possessed the magical power of 5 Emperors' true sword, barely resisted the bad luck. Song Wuyuru, who had already succeeded, did not linger in the fight. While Yan Wanhe was taking effect, he directly escaped from Xian blessed land and flew away. Li Fuchen, who had suffered a great loss, was not willing to give up. He took out a flying sword of the magic weapon level from the treasure pavilion, then set up the sword light, and chased after him. It took the rest of the Li family cultivators a long time to adjust their breathing and barely regained their ability to move. At this time, the Taoist Zeduo suddenly said, "Why do I always feel that there should be a Dangsuan ancestor in the blessed land? After all, only families with more than 2 Dangsuan ancestors will be recruited by the Holy Land to the East China Sea front." Hearing his words, the other Li family cultivators immediately noticed something wrong again. One of them frowned and thought for a while, then said uncertainly, "The fog of history? In Newman County, on the arena of the Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall, Zhao Chen, who defeated Shishian Lui, the owner of the Green Snake Martial Arts Hall, felt more and more strange the discussions around him. Just when he was puzzled, he heard that familiar voice again, which he could understand in an unknown language. "The special mission Red Gold Mountain will start in 3 months. Please prepare in advance." Chapter 94, Winning Over. The special mission Red Gold Mountain will be launched in 3 months. Please prepare in advance. Normal missions are not affected by special missions. Zhao Chen was slightly startled when he heard this voice, and then his expression remained unchanged on the surface, and he continued to pose to maintain his momentum, but he analyzed in his heart, the special mission was triggered at this time, and something might have happened in Chijin Mountain. Thinking carefully, the part of the things that people were talking about just now that was inconsistent with my cognition seemed to be related to Chijin Mountain and Bingquan Town. Could it be caused by the change of Chijin Mountain? And the 2 missions I experienced were both carried out in the historical fog. Could it be? Thinking of this, Zhao Chen had some vague guesses in his heart and planned to go to Miss Qi to discuss it after verifying it later. Her origin is quite mysterious, and it is highly likely that she will not be affected by cognition. However, for now, this competition must be completed first. At this time, Shishian Lui, the owner of the Green Snake Martial Arts Hall who was kicked off the ring, was still in a trance. He couldn't believe that the green snake leg technique he had practiced for many years was so unbearable that it was broken in one move, and the opponent didn't even use the sword technique he was best at. How could he accept this? Seeing that he was getting more and more frustrated, as if he was stuck in a dead end, Zhao Chen thought for a moment and kindly said, "In fact, it's not because of your lack of strength that you lost to me. Not because of your strength? Then why did I lose?" Shishian Lui looked up at Zhao Chen on the stage and asked blankly, "You want to win too much, which leads to anxiety and fear of loss. Your mind is too vulnerable, and it's easy to be found." Zhao Chen explained with a smile. "Mind loopholes." Shishian Lui frowned, somewhat confused about what Zhao Chen meant. The current key and orifice cultivators hardly cultivate their minds, nor do they need to comprehend the artistic conception of sword and fist. After all, as long as they advance their mana and refine the corresponding evil spirit and Genki, they can naturally be baptized by the true meaning of the relevant laws and use this to temper their minds, which is much more time saving and labor saving than groping hard by themselves. Before the realm of mana, there are firearms to protect the way, so there is no need to fight for key and fight secretly. After all, who will get close to you when you really fight for life and death in this era? It's only possible to play on this kind of ring, where firearms are banned. Seeing that Shishianli was still puzzled, but at least he got rid of the previous state that seemed to be ready to commit suicide at any time. Zhao Chen was too lazy to say more and cast his eyes on Song San, the chief escort of the San Escort Agency. This man is his next opponent. But Song San had no intention of going to the ring at this moment, because he didn't understand why Shishianli was defeated so quickly. Without clarifying this issue, he felt that he would only lose if he went up. It would be better not to go up, leaving some suspense and retaining the last bit of face for his own escort agency. After all, being kicked off the ring by a 14-year-old boy is really not a good reputation. If Song San can't go up, then the owner of the Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall, MOQIU, who was originally a stooge, will naturally not go up. After exchanging glances with Lin Ruxiang, who was watching the game in the pavilion of the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall, she smiled and announced the decision of the Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall to give up. The audience outside the venue booed immediately, but the commentator Tankid with Western features smiled and said, "This Zhao Erlang is so amazing at the age of 14. His future achievements are probably limitless. He may be another Yan Hangxia. Even if the owner Mo and the chief escort leader Song can beat him now, how can they offend the future human Rinji Bang for a trade route? Giving up is the safest way." When the onlookers heard this, they all understood and praised the wisdom of MOQIU and Song San. Even Song San, who was originally a little depressed, was cheered up and thought to himself, "Yes, I'm not afraid of fighting, because I'm not sure, but I'm giving face to the future strong man." MOQIU on the other side secretly exchanged glances with Tankid. As for Zhao Chen, he originally attached great importance to his famous battle this time. He had imagined standing on the ring and saying to the three Jamonas and escort leaders below the stage, "You three come together." That is the style of young heroes' first fame. But unfortunately, after receiving the so-called special task, he didn't have the mood. He just said thank you hastily and waited for the three celebrities who were witnesses to announce the ownership of the trade route. After the noise died down, the people from the Green Snake Martial Arts Hall and the San Escort Agency left one after another, and then the three famous people on the main seat approached Zhao Chen. "Hello, three seniors." Zhao Chen hurriedly saluted when he saw this. He King Jiao, the second owner of King Mu Manor, who was holding a whisk in one hand and a purple bamboo flute in the other, stroked his long beard and said half jokingly, "The young man's swordsmanship is quite good. I remember that you don't have a master, but you just learned a few moves from the Hangxia sword. Are you interested in joining our King Mu Manor? My family is good at swordsmanship, and the inherited King Mu Hua longsword Ju is also a technique that directly targets supernatural powers. I don't have a master." In his eyes, does Master Huang no longer exist? Could it be that the master also went to Chijin Mountain? The so-called something happened to the master refers to the changes in Chijin Mountain. Yes, although the master's magic power was abolished, it is not normal for such a former master to stay in Bingquan town all year round. What secrets are hidden in Chijin Mountain? Zhao Chen's heart sank. Since he traveled through time, there were not many people who could make him care, but Master Huang was undoubtedly one of them. Second Mana Master he. Stop it, your King Mu Hua longsword art can only condense an 8th grade magical power at most, and it is still lacking a key method. Brother Chen and sister Hangxia are good friends. How can they lack a skill like yours? What's more, with Brother Chen's character and martial arts, he may not be unworthy of a lady from the Li family in the future. At that time, he will be taught any sword in the 5 Emperor's sword art. Isn't it better than joining King Mu Manor? Fortune-bringing goddess Gong Fei said with a smile. While she was talking, her eyes looking at Zhao Chen became brighter and brighter, and she couldn't help but add, "Brother Chen, I felt that I was very congenial to you when I saw you. If you encounter any problems in the future, just come to me." Hearing this, before Zhao Chen said anything, Second Mana Master he directly spoiled it and said with a smile, "This fortune-bringing goddess is like her sister, Lady Gong Yun, who is born with supernatural powers. Lady Gongyun is known for her bright eyes that can remove delusions, and her wise eyes that can cut off false words. She has the eyes that can see through illusions and illusions. But Lady Gongfei can see the trend of wealth, and she is always successful in investing and doing business, so she is called the goddess of fortune. If you get close to her, be careful that she will drain your value. Okay, you are so arrogant, and you have learned to retaliate. Gongfei's eyebrows stood up immediately, but she quickly restrained her temper and looked at Zhao Chen with a smile. Don't listen to him, sister. I just think you are approachable. From this, it can be seen that Gongyun and He Qingjiao have a very good relationship. Even if the details were revealed, Gongyun was not really angry. However, sister, can you put away your expression that looks like a dragon seeing a gold coin before you speak? I'm a little scared when you do this. In addition, she is trying to win me over because she sees that my fortune is very good recently. Zhao Chen complained a few words in his heart and decided to stay away from this goddess of fortune in the future so as not to be really sucked dry of his fortune. After finally dealing with the two people's perfunctory attempts to win them over, the young master in green robe Li Changsheng, who had been watching the scene with a smile, also stepped forward. He patted Zhao Chen on the shoulder and said with a smile, I heard that we have common hobbies. We can exchange ideas some other day. I have something else to do today, so I'll leave first. After that, he left the Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall with Gongfei and He Qingjiao. Common hobbies? What hobbies? When Zhao Chen was puzzled, senior brother Feng's voice with a hint of teasing came from behind him. Young master in green robe Li Changsheng actually has a more well-known nickname. That is, young master of the brothel. Chapter 95 East China Sea. A brothel boy who shares this hobby with him. Zhao Chen was speechless for a long time, thinking that this gossip that did not exist was spread too quickly. Could it be the result of a shift in cognition? Master, you defeated Shishian Li of the Green Snake Martial Arts Hall this time, not only saving the trade route, but also allowing us to truly gain a foothold in the county city, instead of just using the name of the Red Cloud Sword as before. It's really a cause for celebration. Feng Kang smiled and bowed. Master. Zhao Chen pondered for a few seconds and asked tentatively, Brother Feng, do you still remember the master? Of course I remember. Although I don't know who that senior is. If it weren't for the martial arts secrets he left in that cave, we wouldn't be able to embark on the path of cultivation. In that case, I wouldn't be noticed by Brotherhood 2 of the Yuan sect, and you wouldn't be appreciated by the Red Cloud Sword. At this point, Feng Kang sighed, and then said, you asked about the master. Do you want to pay tribute to that unknown senior after your success? Well, it's time to pay tribute to him. In other words, the role of the master was completely shared by Sister Hangsha, senior brother Hutu, and the unknown senior. What is this? A world line correction. Then the reason why I was not affected was because of a cheat? While thinking and casually dealing with senior brother Feng Kang, Zhao Chen had already walked out of the Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall. As for the subsequent affairs of the trade route, he threw them all to the two subordinates, shopkeeper Lin Ruxiang and Uncle Zan. They are no longer the helper sent by Zhao Song to assist his son, but have become the elders of Zhao Chen's self-made business. This made Ning Meng, the silver-haired and red-eyed girl who planned to get to know Zhao Chen during the negotiation, fail to think of it, and she was quite frustrated for a while. Although the shill of the Black Cloud Martial Arts Hall did not contribute much in this competition due to the strong performance of Zhao Chen and Feng Kang, it finally abstained as agreed, so the benefits should still be given, but it is impossible to be as much as agreed before. On the other side, as soon as Zhao Chen walked out of the martial arts hall, he saw a girl in a simple and elegant long dress waving at him at the corner of the street. It was Qi Meng who was still stranded in the county town. Seeing this, Zhao Chen thought for a moment and said to brother Feng beside him, Brother, I have something else to do. You go back to the martial arts hall first. Feng Kang naturally saw this scene. After glancing at Zhao Chen with a strange look on his face, he showed an I understand expression and said with a smile, Go. Don't worry, if Lady Yang comes to see you, I won't say anything nonsense. Brother, although you don't even remember the master, your temperament hasn't changed much. Oh yes, you said that the reason you are like this now is because of the stupid second brother who you only heard of but never met. After complaining a few words in his heart, Zhao Chen was too lazy to explain anymore. Anyway, Miss Qi didn't care, and he wouldn't suffer any loss, so it didn't matter. After waving goodbye to his brother, Zhao Chen walked quickly towards Qi Fimeng. He now had a lot of questions to ask her. But who would have thought that, as soon as he walked to Qi Fimeng, this elegant and fairy-like girl stuffed a stack of silver bills into Zhao Chen's hand in a mercenary way. Your odds were 3-1 at the beginning. We made a lot of money this time. Look, this is a total of 800 strings of silver bills, including your principal. Qi Fimeng said with a smile. Obviously, she also made a lot of money. 800 strings of cash. If it were any other day, Zhao Chen would have counted them out with great joy, but today he was not in the mood. He only took a few glances and put them in his arms. Even without relying on the special ability of the Great Compassion and Great Mercy Universal Salvation Key to read minds, Qi Fimeng could see that Zhao Chen was in a bad mood, so she also restrained her smile and asked with concern, "What happened?" Hearing this, Zhao Chen's lips moved, and after a few seconds, he did not answer but asked, "Do you still remember my Master Huang Xianjun?" "Of course I remember. Did Master Huang have an accident?" Qi Fimeng said in confusion. She had just come out of the gambling house and had not noticed anything unusual. Huh. It's good that someone still remembers it. Zhao Chen breathed a sigh of relief. He was actually very afraid that there was something wrong with his memory, not that something had changed in the world. Looking around, Zhao Chen directly grabbed Qi Fimeng's hand, pulled her to another street, and whispered, "This is not the place to talk. Let's go to the restaurant to talk in detail." East China Sea, Fangshang Island. Although this island is as famous as Penglai and Yingzhou, it is located between the near sea and the deep sea, and countless arrays and prohibitions have been built on it, making it a solid fortress, and one of the most important arrays, to protect the near sea array. On the island, there are 3 Shengxuan Zhenjin from the Shangzang Daoxunmen, the aristocratic Meng family and the Zheng family, as well as many Dongxuan and Shentong monks recruited from various places, who together form the outermost defense system of Daxia against deep-sea demons. At this time, in a cave with abundant vitality on this Fangshang Immortal Island, Li Yunzi, who was in the second realm of Dongxuan, and condensed the true body of the Queen of Heaven, suddenly opened her eyes. She looked only 17 or 18 years old, with a pair of bright eyes, a high nose, red lips and white teeth, and a head of black long hair casually scattered behind her, which made people feel good at first sight. At this time, she frowned, stretched out her fingers and calculated, but got nothing. I can vaguely sense that there is a conflict in the memories, related to my family, but I can't calculate anything. Is this the return of history that was obscured by the fog of history, which caused the history of the present world to change? And this change has caused a great impact on my Li family. No, I have to go back to my family. The supernatural cultivators have been able to initially contact the laws of heaven and earth, especially those who have cultivated the upper 3rd grade supernatural powers. They will not be unaware of the historical changes. The supernatural cultivators in my family are very close to the center of this change and must know more than me. I will ask for a vacation from True Lord Kingsu later. Alas, this kind of temporary leave will probably not be approved immediately. I have to wait for the arrival of someone who can replace me. Well, if everything goes well, I should be able to rush back to Ganzhou in 3 months. In the private room on the top floor of the restaurant, Qi Fimeng nodded after a little thought. After listening to the abnormality that Zhao Chen noticed, I was wondering why there was a special mission suddenly. Listening to your description, combined with the name of the mission, the center of the change must be Chijin Mountain. And the historical changes you noticed were basically centered around the people in Bingquan Town. So I guess that a large area centered on the Red Gold Mountain has been dragged into the historical fog. But if you want to be sure, it's best to go to the area near the Red Gold Mountain and see it with your own eyes. But now the city gate is still. As soon as she said this, there was a commotion on the street below the restaurant, and someone could vaguely hear someone shouting, "The city gate is open." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96 Song Wayuru's Goal. Dunhuang, located more than 800 miles outside Human Pass, is said to be the gateway to hundreds of countries in the western regions in ancient times. In ancient times, western regions was a general term for the vast area west of the Tang dynasty. It was not actually a holistic concept. After leaving Human, hundreds of countries were established. Due to the existence of Kunlun sect in Zhao Chen, it was once extremely prosperous, even richer than the Central Plains. But with the passage of time, the western regions have long been transformed into an endless desert. Once you enter, you will lose your way. The lucky ones may be able to get out from other places, and there are even precedents of directly reaching the west. But the unlucky ones may be trapped in it for a lifetime and never get out. Dunhuang was originally part of the endless desert and could not be reached at all, but it reappeared with many oases hundreds of years ago for unknown reasons. It not only created the current prominent Li family, but also became a paradise for many adventurers. There is no government agency in Dunhuang. The Great Zaya Court only stationed a battalion of soldiers here to maintain basic order and guard the families of criminal officials exiled here. The ordinary battalion commander is only a 9th rank military officer, but the alien battalion in Dunhuang is considered elite, so it is equipped with a 7th rank Yahoo School lieutenant, Qiao Zhao, the purple-bearded King Kong who ranks 9th on the Human Outstanding list. After Dunhuang reappeared in the world, it did not set up a separate county, and has always been under the jurisdiction of Human. On this day, Qiao Zhao was leading his soldiers to encircle and suppress a group of horse thieves in the desert, but suddenly, his spiritual consciousness detected something strange and hurriedly looked up at the sky. He saw two figures, one chasing and the other fleeing, approaching at a very fast speed, and finally stopped above their group. Li Fuchen, you are chasing me so closely, do you really think I dare not kill you? The figure in front shouted loudly after releasing a terrifying flame with his backhand. The people chasing him raised a noble sword light, preventing the flames from getting close at all, and then said, Song Wayuru, return my Li family's Xianyang Immortal gate map. I have sent a message to Lord Yan, the Chaos Haoshi of the Human Dao office. He can be here at any time. You have no choice but to bow your head and confess your guilt. Humph. Don't blame me. Song Wayuru snorted, then raised his hand slightly, and the Killing Phantom reappeared. Countless blazing flames appeared out of thin air and attacked the soldiers and horse thieves below. Not good. It's a magical cultivator. Go. Qiao Zhao's face changed, and he reluctantly said flee in a scattered manner. The farther the better. Then he abandoned his men and cast his own escape technique to escape into the distance. Li Fuchen, the head of the Li family, frowned when he saw this, but he still activated the magical power of 5 Emperor's True Sword to help the people on the ground block most of the flames. But even the small part that was missed instantly caused heavy losses to the soldiers and horse thieves. Kill in holy fire. As long as it is tangible, everything will be burned. Even if it is touched by a spark, it will be burned to ashes. While Li Fuchen was distracted, Song Wayuru took out a small mirror that had been secretly stimulated to emit spiritual light, and then broke through the space and disappeared. Li Fuchen didn't have time to stop him, but he didn't rush. Instead, he chose to extinguish the flames of the 3rd grade magical power Kill in Holy Fire first, and then counted with his fingers. After a moment, he turned into a sword light and went to the depths of the desert in the west. At Human Wharf, Zhao Chen and Qifi Meng, who had successfully left the city, learned without surprise that the route to Bingquan town had completely disappeared, but were surprised to find that the Ligan River that ran through the Snow Mountain and Human had also changed its name. It was no longer opened up by the sword of the Li family's Dongsun, but it was just said that a sword flew from the sky and this river was formed. In other words, the history of the Li family's Dongsun real person has also been rewritten. He may also be trapped in the incident of Chijin Mountain. Qifi Meng's face suddenly became extremely shocked. How dangerous is the incident that the Dongsun real person couldn't handle? And she and Erlang have to face such a crisis in 3 months. In 3 months, is it possible for her or Erlang to gain the combat power of the Dongsun level? Look at the bright side. Since the Li family's Dongsuan ancestor is in Chijin Mountain, he may be our helper, just like Wang Daowei who met in Mirror Village before. Zhao Chen sighed and comforted Miss Qi. But in fact, he also felt it was very tricky. Although he had not personally experienced the horror of Dongsuan, he could get a glimpse of it from the terrifying aura revealed by the local god of Mirror Village. After a pause, Zhao Chen continued, the most urgent thing is to go to the area of Chijin Mountain, to check and confirm the specific situation first. Then we can prepare for the next plan. This special mission made Zhao Chen, who had never felt a sense of urgency, seriously. Although he likes adventure, adventure does not mean suicide. Miss Qi also calmed down, nodded, and then said with a bitter and delicate face, I always feel that after you joined, the difficulty of the task has become higher and higher. Zhao Chen glanced at her and said seriously, this should be your illusion. The two quarreled for a few words, and after relieving the tension, Zhao Chen squatted down and began to stick paper horses on his legs. Qi Fimeng also consciously lay on his back, then stretched out her hand and pointed forward. Let's go. At this moment, Zhao Chen suddenly felt like he had become the other party's mount. West of Dunhuang, in an oasis in the cracks of the desert fog, the figure of evil god Song Wuyuru suddenly appeared here. But before he could stand still, a long sword made of unknown grass and wood with 6 forks on the sword suddenly attacked. Second grade magical power, Yimu 7-branched sword. Seeing this, Song Wuyuru did not dare to neglect it, and immediately threw up a golden round shield, which turned into a solid barrier, to resist the grass and wood sword carrying the power of thunder. Sakura Dragon Fairy Zenkingan. Looking at the beautiful woman who was wearing simple samurai clothes, and showing heroic spirit between her brows, who had issued the sword, Song Wuyuru called out this name with a solemn expression. Zenkingan, the pride of the Zeng family, is an 18-year-old magical cultivator. Except for the fact that she was too young to participate in the star assembly held every 20 years and win a place on the star magic list, her magical powers are not inferior to the evil god in front of her. And her main goal, in coming to the desert is Song Wuyuru. Zenkingan glanced at the golden shield that turned into a barrier and said lightly, the Morning Star level magic weapon Street George Dragon Slaying Golden Shield of Taixi. It seems that you are on guard against me. She practiced the Dragon King's Blessing Sutra, one of the Zeng family's unique skills. Almost all magical powers are related to dragons. Although the dragons of Taixi look different from those of Daxia, their roots are the same. So this defensive magical weapon has a strong ability to resist her magical powers. Fairy is well informed. But how did you know I would come here? Song Wuyuru seemed to be in no hurry to take action and asked proactively. After seeing that his attack had no effect, Zenkingan also stopped attacking and replied in a flat tone. Many years ago, under the guise of revenge, you massacred the people of the 3 counties of Kizhou with natural disasters and turned hundreds of miles of land into ruins. But in fact, it was just a ritual to cover up your sacrifice of lives, to ask the evil god for the answer to a certain question. After that, you first stole the key of morning light, a relic of the star god, from the Zhuge family in Zhuzhou, and then wiped out a branch of my Zeng family, and took the spring and autumn pen from there. I didn't expect what you were going to do, but after hearing that you attacked the Li family, and demanded the map of Xianyang Immortal Gate from the Li family, I finally saw through your purpose. Well, you used the key of morning light to set a trap. Trapped the Li family's Dongsuan with the mist of history, and then took away the map of Xianyang Immortal Gate that the Li family brought out from Dunhuang. You just wanted to use this map as a medium, and with the help of the spring and autumn pen, to open the road to history. It's a pity that I didn't know in advance that the Xianyang Immortal Gate map was in the Li family, otherwise I would definitely not let you succeed. This is the last chapter of the public version. Please support in addition. It will be on the shelves at 12 noon tomorrow. Please be the first to order. There will be comments on the listing later. Chapter 97 Remarks on the release. It will be available at 12 noon tomorrow. First of all, I have to thank you Wen, the platform, the editor-in-chief, the responsible editor, and the many book friends who support me. Thank you all. This traveling merchant is the first truly original work of Ming Huo. Some parts may not be handled well, so please be more tolerant. For example, the foreshadowing is too long, the character creation is not in place, etc. Meng Ho is also constantly learning and improving while writing. In addition, let's talk about the update. On the day of the launch, a minimum of 7 chapters will be updated, just like when reading, 3 chapters at noon, 2 chapters at 6 PM, and 2 chapters at midnight. The update time is extended to get more exposure opportunities, and I hope everyone will understand. In addition, for each additional leader, 3 more chapters will be added. For every additional 200 first orders, 1 more chapter will be added, and for every 300 monthly tickets, 1 more chapter will be added. Of course, this cannot be fulfilled on the day of the launch, and it will be supplemented in the following days. Meng Ho still has a reputation guarantee in this regard. In short, I hope everyone will support it, and ask for monthly tickets and subscriptions by the way. Finally, book friends who read books on other sites, please go to Kidian.com at least tomorrow, to support the first order. Thank you very much. Chapter 98 The End of Zenkingan. After listening to Zenkingan's words, Song Wuiui clapped his hands twice, and said with a smile, "Well said, Fairy, you should have also cultivated a magical power of calculation and divination, and it must be at least the 3rd grade, otherwise it would not be possible for you to guess my plan in such a short time." But, having said that, Song Wuiui suddenly clenched his fists, and then a series of Tao characters appeared in the void behind Zenkingan, interweaving with each other to form a fairy-like high platform, and an illusory guillotine on the high platform suddenly fell down, and under Zenkingan's indifferent gaze, her head fell to the ground. This is a disposable magic weapon transformed from the 2nd grade magical power Zangxiante, with a trace of Dunksuan power. Song Wuiui used the conversation to delay time just to activate this treasure. However, Fairy, you are too young after all, and you don't know how dangerous the world is. With the second half of Song Wuiui's words, a large amount of blood spurted out from Zenkingan's neck, and her headless body fell to the ground. But then, something strange happened. From the remains of the Zeng family girl, another figure appeared, as if taking off clothes, shedding the outer shell of flesh and blood, revealing another identical Zenkingan in white warrior clothes. The body that had lost its head gradually faded until it disappeared. Zenkingan's clothes were as new, and her breath did not decline at all. She looked at Song Wuiui, who showed a surprised expression, and said lightly, "I know that you must be delaying time to prepare a strong move, so I also want to try you. Now it seems that, even if you have a blessing of the earth-kicking position on the stars and constellations magical powers list, the price you paid to deceive the Dunksuan real person will not be small, otherwise you would not only use secret treasures and magic weapons to attack me, instead of your own 1st grade great magical power Yang Wanhe, Fu Ke Kang Sheng as the foundation." At this time, Song Wuiui also restrained his surprised expression, and said with emotion, "It turns out that Fairy Zeng has mastered the Zeng family's 1st grade great magical power, the immortal body of the evil dragon. No wonder even Thesslaging immortal platform can't do anything to you. After all, the immortal body of the evil dragon is a time-related magical power that anchors the body at its peak. When you die, you will go back to that moment." As he said, he changed the subject again and persuaded, "But Fairy, your attacking magical power can't break the defense of St. George Dragon slaying Golden Shield either. There is no point in wasting time like this. And you and I have no hatred. After cultivating the immortal body of the evil dragon, and establishing a fateful connection with the Dragon King, you have long begun to become inhuman. You won't be angry for the lives of some ordinary people, right? Why don't we each take a step back, and let me enter his story?" Zenkingan looked at Song Wuiui with her beautiful eyes coldly, shook her head and said, "I still have a humanity, and I value it very much. You killed my Zeng family branch, so you must pay with your life. Besides, I've been talking to you so much, because I'm waiting for an opportunity." After she finished speaking, she looked past Song Wuiui and headed for the entrance to the oasis. There, 2 sword lights broke through the air and landed on the left and right sides of Zenkingan. One of them was Li Fuchen, the head of the Li family who had been chasing Song Wuiui, and the other was Yan Wen, the Chaos Hao envoy of the Human Dao office, who had received a message from Li Fuchen's flying sword and rushed back quickly. You want to wait until they use their magical powers to break my St. George dragon slaying golden shield before dealing with me, so you have been cooperating with me to delay time. Seeing this scene, Song Wuyuru asked in a deep voice, your golden shield restrains my dragon magical power, but it doesn't have such a good effect on Senior Li and Lord Yan. So I sent a message to them at the beginning. Zheng Qingyan's face still had no extra expression, and she only announced calmly, Song Wuyuru, you can't escape. Hearing this, Song Wuyuru burst into laughter, and then he suddenly withdrew the golden shield, and at the same time, stretched out his hand to make the killing holy fire reappear, as if he was going to fight a trapped beast. Seeing this, Zheng Qingyan didn't say any more nonsense, and sacrificed the Yimu 7 swords to attack the opponent. But at this moment, Song Wuyuru curled his lips, and smiled at the Zheng family girl who was so beautiful, that she didn't seem like an ordinary person, saying, it is you who can't escape. Don't forget, I'm the god of evil. What? Zheng Qingyan was a little confused at first, and then she felt something was wrong, but it was too late. Li Fuchen and Yan Wen beside her suddenly took out a long knife each, one stabbed into her heart, and the other pierced through her denshin. This change came very quickly, and Zheng Qingyan, who had always lacked adaptability, didn't react at all. The moment her consciousness sensed the danger, she was hit by 2 knives. What's strange is that, after being fatally injured, her evil dragon immortal body did not activate immediately. Fairy Yinglong, I just said that you are too young and don't know how dangerous the martial arts world is. Although my great magical power of Yanwanhe, Fulio Kangsheng can control the fate of an area, its range is only 100 miles and can only cover the area around Chijin Mountain. Without the cooperation of Brother Li and Brother Yan, how could the 4 Evil Hall, with its many mistakes and omissions, have been able to hide it from the Zhang Li family and the Human Dao government? And if Brother Li hadn't sent most of the 30 magical cultivators of the Li family out on the opportunity to arrange a mission, how could I have easily obtained the Xianyang Immortal Gate map? By the way, it is rumored that, in order to cultivate the immortal body of the evil dragon, unless one is a genius and understands the divine meaning of the magical power by himself, otherwise one needs to find the real dragon evil spirit in the green dragon gang spirit, and this pair of gang evil spirits can only be produced from the Yimu green dragon who just fell. And you call yourself the Sakura dragon fairy, so I guess you killed the Sakura dragon that just appeared on Yingzhou Island. I'm good at the fate type of magical power, so I naturally saw that you were the human disaster I planned this time, so I entrusted Brother Yan to travel to Yingzhou and use my official status to get a tear of the Sakura dragon before it fell, and forged this long sword that is specifically designed to break your evil dragon's immortal body. In addition, the sword in Brother Li's hand is his family heirloom magic weapon dragon slaying blade. Although it is not as good as the specially made Immortal Slash, it can also restrain you very much. And the reason why you fell into this calculation so easily is that, on the one hand, you relied on the evil dragon's immortal body and rarely dodged fatal attacks. Now you are reaping the consequences. Secondly, in addition to paralyzing you with the immortal slashing platform just now, I also secretly gave you some bad luck with the great magical power Yanwanhe, so that you did not notice the danger in advance. Even if my injuries are a little worse because of this. Having said that, Song Wuyui stepped forward, stretched out his hand, and closed Zheng Qingyan's cold eyes, as if announcing the fact that she was dead. Is it necessary to say all this? Yan Wen on the side asked with a frown. If we don't give her a final verdict and lead her to a doomed fate of death, as long as we pull out the knife from her body, the evil dragon immortal body will still be activated. Song Wuyui explained briefly. She's still not dead. The first grade magical power is really powerful. Yan Wen sighed. His eyes gradually became eager, and there was a hint of expectation. Brother Yan, don't worry, wait a minute. We will enter the history when the Kunlun sect still existed, and we will have the opportunity to worship under the Teichu Daojin. At that time, the 9 first grade magical powers in the Teichu 9 Heavens Born Divine Jade chapter will be available for you to choose from. Song Wuyui smiled and painted a pie, then turned to Li Fuchen. When we return from our studies, we will naturally find a way to dispel the historical fog of the Red Gold Mountain and let your ancestor return. and you will not be regarded as a traitor who is in cahoots with me if you chase me in front of all the Dunhuang soldiers. I can't remember the name and appearance of the ancestor. I don't know if it's right or wrong to do this. But if my family wants to produce a Shengsun, we must complete the great supernatural power of 5 emperors paying homage to the truth. Li Fuchen sighed, looked at Song Wuyuru, and asked, now can you tell me the purpose of entering Xianyang City? You are not like us who don't have the Shengsun inheritance. Seeing the question, Song Wuyuru was about to answer the other party's question, while reinforcing Zheng Qinggan's fate of death. But at this time, the abnormality occurred again. Zheng Qinggan's body suddenly became transparent, and then turned into a pile of bubbles. The two knives also lost their support, and fell to the ground. Seeing this, Li Fuchen quickly released the 5 emperors paying homage to the truth sword, but it only dispersed the bubbles, and failed to stop the other party from leaving. She ran away. Yan Wen frowned. Song Wuyui sensed it a little, shook his head and said, her life force is gone. There is no possibility of survival. Just now it should be some kind of magical power she preset that was triggered by the stress and took her body away. And this magical power has nothing to do with the dragon. It looks a bit like the magical power in the West. Since it is confirmed that she is dead, forget it. But we must open the Xianyang Immortal Gate as soon as possible and enter history. Otherwise there will be changes. Li Fuchen said with a serious face. You must know that the Zheng family has a Shengsun. If her body is taken back home by the bubble magical power just now, she will not be safe even in the desert. Okay. Song Wuyui naturally knew this, so he did not continue to recuperate his body. He directly placed the Xianyang Immortal Gate map that the Li family had brought out from Dunhuang in the center of the oasis, and then took out the spring and autumn pen obtained from the Zheng family's branch, and pointed at the Immortal Gate in the picture. In an instant, the Xianyang Immortal Gate map was connected to the mist surrounding the oasis, and the tightly closed door of the Immortal Gate slowly opened, sucking Song Wuyuru, Li Fuchen, and Yan Wen into it. Then, the picture itself disappeared. Upstream of the Xianjian River, the original territory of Bingquan Town is now open, and the snow-capped mountains in the distance can be seen from afar. But the strange thing is that no matter how you go, you will only circle around in this open area and eventually lose your way and appear at a random place nearby. Qifei, who was lying on Zhao Chen's body, dreamed of such a situation and sighed slightly. It seems that the area around Chijin Mountain has really been pulled into the fog of history. Posted on the shelves for monthly tickets, subscriptions, and collections. Chapter 99, The 33 Avatars of Guanyin. Is this phenomenon that makes the original boundary disappear and everyone forgets it and gets lost once you get close to it, the fog of history? It looks very similar to the endless desert west of Dunhuang. Could it be that the hundreds of countries in the western regions were also pulled into the fog of history? But why is it remembered by people, and even the legend of the 9 veins of Kunlun is passed down? Zhao Chen stopped and found a place to rest near the original Bingquan Town pier. Qifei Meng got off Zhao Chen's back, sat next to him, organized his sentences and said, based on my previous experience in doing missions, there are at least 2 different types of fog of history. Zhao Chen looked at the sparkling river that seemed to never stop and asked, 2? Which 2? He didn't really want to explore the secret of the historical fog, but it involved a special mission, and the reason why Chijin Mountain was pulled into the historical fog might be the key to the problem. One is that, like the mirror village and the Chijin Mountain in front of him, an area was cut out as a whole, and the history of this area was also separated from the world, causing people's cognition to change. And once this area returns to normal history, the people and things in it will be remembered again. When Qifei Meng said this, he saw Zhao Chen picked up a small stone and threw it casually. Without using his true energy, it made more than 10 splashes on the river surface. For some reason, he felt inexplicably relaxed a lot, and then he said, the second is that a period of time was cut as a whole, just like the beating protectorate in our previous serial tasks. Although it is in the historical fog, it still exists now, that is, the beating county of Daksha. In addition, I suspect that the reason why there is no historical record from the second year of Tang Guang in the Tang dynasty to the end of the ancient times is because this period of time was cut down as a whole and entered the historical fog. And this kind of historical fog will not erase the existence of related people or things, but what happened no longer exists in history, rather than being transferred to other people like a region being cut off. As she said this, she also imitated Zhao Chen, picked up a stone, and threw it into the river. Just like the river water in front of us, if someone just encloses a section of water, the fish outside will not notice anything wrong, and will not even remember the same kind in the enclosed water. But if someone casts a spell to cut off the river water, but keeps the river flowing, the fish will know, but they just don't understand why this is the case. So that's the so-called historical fog. After nodding thoughtfully, Zhao Chen asked again, which kind are the 100 kingdoms of the western regions in the Kunlun sect? Miss Qi thought for a moment, then said carefully, the issues involved in the disappearance of the 100 countries in the western regions and Taichu Daojin may be more complicated. In my opinion, perhaps there are both kinds of historical fog, overlapping with each other. In addition, Daojin is already the supreme existence in this world. Even the historical fog cannot completely obscure the information of such an existence. This makes sense. Zhao Chen nodded slightly, and couldn't help but sighed. Femeng, you know so much. Knowing a lot is not a good thing. I have been under pressure that I shouldn't have at this age. Qi Femeng said self-deprecatingly. Although her wording was playful and seemed to be joking, there was a hint of fatigue in her tone. Seeing her air-weak gesture, Zhao Chen patted her hands and said with a smile, since some destinies cannot be escaped, it is better to face them actively. Besides, we are friends now, and the pressure can be shared with me. Hearing this, Qi Femeng stared at Zhao Chen's angular face for a while, then smiled sweetly and said directly, are you teasing me? But it's not so easy to make me fall in love with you, even if you smell good. Femeng, be more subtle. It's not easy for me to respond to this. Zhao Chen complained in his heart, and on the surface he deliberately looked at her figure, but did not speak. Qi Femeng knew what he meant, and secretly gnashed his teeth. The self-pity just now had disappeared. Zhao Erlang always makes people put aside their worries and tension and become relaxed. As this thought flashed through Qi Femeng's mind, he turned and said, in fact, I don't know everything. For example, the cause of this historical fog is not clear for the time being. Therefore, in addition to strengthening our strength, our next primary goal is to collect clues about the changes in Shijin Mountain. Well, there are 3 directions I can think of for collecting intelligence. The first is your master Huang Xianjun. Although his existence has been replaced, his influence on the world will not disappear. We can investigate his master's sect, the Yuan sect, and speculate what he was going to do in Shijin Mountain before. The second is the Lord of the Black Wind Fort, Crazy Sanzi Bodu, who was originally ranked 10th on the Human Outstanding People list. According to the Human Outstanding People list we bought at the Human Wharf just now, the reason why your sister Hangsha became the 15th is because Zibodu's existence was suddenly erased. This means that he was very likely in the Chijin area at the time. We can go to Black Wind Fort to investigate secretly. After all, although he disappeared, some things will leave traces, even if they are transferred to other people. The third is the Dunk Son of the Li family. This requires long-term planning. After saying that, Qi Femeng pulled her hand out of Zhao Chen's palm without leaving a trace. It's not that she dislikes the other person, but because when they touch each other, she can't help but sense Zhao Chen's thoughts. As a friend, she doesn't want this. After all, no matter how generous she is, no matter how unconcerned she is about reputation, it is difficult for her to look directly at those romantic thoughts of her friends. Although she also knows that this is human nature, and that one should judge by deeds, rather than by heart, but sometimes the protagonist of the romantic thoughts is not her, which is very annoying. After listening to Qi Femeng's suggestion, Zhao Chen thought for a while, nodded and said, first, King Yu's clan is far away in An'ai, and it is not convenient for us to investigate. But we can ask Hangsha to think of a way to retrieve relevant information with the identity of a Taoist official. The second one is simple. After seizing the trade route, I will soon ship the goods to Dunhuang. The Black Wind Castle is on the oasis along the way. When the time comes, we can sneak in and investigate while staying overnight. The third one, maybe we can go to the green robe young man to test the waters? After a pause, Zhao Chen added, in fact, there is another direction, that is to start with the member of the four evils we caught. As far as I know, the people of the four evils have been lurking in Bingquan town. Maybe this incident was caused by them. Hearing this, Qi Meng clapped his hands and said, if you didn't say it, I would have almost forgotten that we have 2 trophies locked up under the temple of the goddess of light. Those are all star coins. Of course I remember. As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen looked at the sky, then stood up and said, it's getting late. It may be too late for us to go back to Human now. Why don't we go to Jinjia County to stay for one night? Okay. Qi Meng had no objection and was about to jump on Zhao Chen's back. But at this moment, a large number of bubbles suddenly rose in the giant river. These bubbles reflected dreamy colors under the sunlight. The next moment, the foam broke, and a woman fell out of it. The person was wearing a white martial arts uniform, with a waist belt tied very tightly, showing off her graceful figure. Looking at her face again, she closed her eyes and her pretty face was pale. Isn't this the Sakura Dragon Fairy who showed her power in the Stone Buddha Temple? How could she be in such a state as she is a top-notch supernatural power? Zhao Chen and Qi Meng were extremely surprised. One immediately took out the sunset sword and became alert, while the other stepped forward to check Zheng Qinggan's condition. After a moment, Qi Meng shook his head at Zhao Chen and said, her true spirit has dispersed, and only obsession remains. She can't be saved. Zhao Chen felt a little sorry for the death of a genius, but he had no friendship with the Sakura Dragon Fairy, so after feeling sorry, he tried to use the big sun star after check the price. But unfortunately, without the soul, the other party's body seemed to be seriously damaged and could not be sold at a high price. However, at this time, Qi Meng looked at Zhao Chen seriously and asked sincerely, can you give her to me? Give her to you? Of course, no problem. Zhao Chen nodded first, then asked doubtfully, but why? In the Great Compassionate Avalokitesvara Heart Sutra that I practiced, there is a first grade magical power called Avalokitesvara's 33 incarnations. This magical power can refine a dead person who meets certain conditions and has a deep obsession into an incarnation, inheriting the other party's identity and part of the strength. But the premise is that the obsession must be completed within a certain period of time, otherwise the cause and effect will be entangled, and my body will also be backlashed. The body of this Sakura Dragon Fairy meets the requirements, and she had a deep obsession before her death, and the cause and effect are heavy. She is a very good candidate for incarnation. Although I'm only at the refining acupoint level, the reward for a previous mission is that I can use the Bodhisattva true form map to refine an incarnation. Chapter 100 Top Configuration. Qi Meng did not hide anything and told the reason why she needed the Sakura Dragon Fairy Zheng Qinggan without reservation. Qi Meng, you are even more cheating than me. Of course, the consequences sound more serious. However, occupying the body and identity of others, even if it is the body of a dead person, and refining it into an incarnation. Are you sure this is a serious Buddhist practice? The Guanyin of this world looks evil, no matter how you look at it. After complaining a few words in his heart, Zhao Chen saw that Qi Meng had begun to arrange the corresponding ceremony, so while helping her to protect the law, he casually asked, in addition to deep obsession and entanglement in cause and effect, what other conditions are required to meet the requirements of the so-called incarnation? Female, and I have a destiny. Qi Meng said, after setting up the altar and placing Zheng Qinggan's body on it. Destiny. It's a very simple, but extremely demanding condition. Zhao Chen was thoughtful and curiously asked, with such an incarnation, do you need to find another 32 when you are in the supernatural power stage? How is that possible? The supernatural power stage can only support 3 incarnations at most. If you want to achieve the perfection of 33 incarnations, you must at least reach the Shengsuan realm. Qi Meng took out a candle and answered. Then, after Sakura Dragon Fairy became your incarnation, can the Zheng family see the clues? This is the problem that Zhao Chen is most concerned about. After all, after refining Zenkingan into an incarnation, some things can't be explained clearly, and he and Miss Qi can't afford the revenge of the family with their strength. Hearing this, Qi Fimeng also stopped his actions, and after thinking seriously for a moment, he answered, "At present, if we don't face the existence of Shengxuan directly, it's not a big problem. And when I become a supernatural power, even if it is Shengxuan, it is highly likely that I can't see it without careful inspection." "That's good." Zhao Chen exhaled and quietly watched Qi Fimeng perform the spell of refining the incarnation. In 3 months, they will face a special mission. Now all methods that can improve their strength are very important, and it is worth taking some risks. On the other side, Qi Fimeng has already danced a mysterious dance around the altar. Sometimes her face shows compassion, sometimes she is dignified and beautiful, sometimes she is solemn, and sometimes she is heroic and mighty. As she danced, Zhao Chen could feel that the essence of Qi Fimeng's soul was constantly rising, combining with some mysterious power, and entering an ethereal and wonderful state. The next moment, an evil picture of Guanyin appeared behind her mind. Then, the Guanyin in the picture seemed to come alive, and the poplar branch in her hand gently touched Miss Qi's chest. At this time, Qi Fimeng also stopped dancing, reached out to unbutton her shirt, revealing a lotus mark on her chest. At the same time, the collar of Zenkingan's warrior uniform on the altar opened automatically, and a lotus mark exactly the same as the one on Qi Fimeng's chest gradually emerged. Zhao Chen did not pretend to turn his back to avoid suspicion, but carefully observed Qi Fimeng's state, because the other party was very wrong at this time. Not only was his face full of pain, but he also had a strong sense of palpitations. But fortunately, that feeling came quickly and disappeared quickly. In a blink of an eye, it could no longer be felt, as if it was just an illusion before. At this time, Qi Fimeng and Zenkingan on the altar opened their eyes at the same time. The two beautiful women looked at each other, and the lotus marks on their chests disappeared together. Then they tacitly sorted out their clothes, and then they packed up the ritual items, and walked to Zhao Chen. "Did you succeed?" After looking at the two of them for a few times, Zhao Chen asked after confirming that he could not see any clues. "It can be considered a success, although there are still some flaws." Qi Fimeng responded with a smile, but Zenkingan just nodded lightly. Seeing such an obvious difference, Zhao Chen couldn't help but look at Qi Fimeng. Qi Fimeng could guess what he was wondering without reading minds, so he explained, "Although memories and feelings are interoperable, the incarnation's temperament is different from my own. Although I can force Zenkingan to show my personality, it will not be good for my own practice. It sounds like some kind of acting. Just like when I play the role of a traveling merchant, I can also speed up the practice of true energy. The position of the Dairi Xingcha and the practice system of this world may be more closely related than I thought." As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen asked again, "Fimeng, what do you mean by flaws?" "Well, Zenkingan practiced the Zeng family's orthodox practice, the Dragon King's Blessing Sutra, and cultivated a total of 5 magical powers, and they are all top grade. Among the 3rd grade magical powers are Dragon Silk Fairy Clothes and Dream of the Goddess of Beauty. The former is a top-notch defensive magical power that can ignore most attacks from the 5-element magical powers, but Zenkingan rarely uses it. The latter is a magical power obtained from the west. Its source is the angel Aphrodite, who was appointed by the goddess of light in the past. It can transform into foam and move quickly between any locations in the connected water system, which is almost comparable to teleportation. There are also 2 2nd-grade magical powers, namely Yimu 7-branched sword and 9 Yaoyi of celestial phenomena. Yimu 7-branched sword is not only a powerful sword magical power, but can also trigger Yimu divine thunder, which is extremely powerful, but Zenkingan's swordsmanship is mediocre, so he uses its thunder-inducing function more often. And the 9 line changes of celestial phenomena is the top divination power. All of the above can be used after Zenkingan became my incarnation, but her most powerful 1st-grade magical power, which is also the foundation of her cultivation, the immortal body of the evil dragon, was broken before her death. And now I dare not communicate with the Dragon King, who is the source of the practice. This magical power is useless. That's why it is said to have a flaw. 5 great 3rd-grade magical powers. As expected of a girl from an aristocratic family, this configuration is abnormally strong. You know, although a cultivator with perfect gangsha has 9 yang gang and 9 yin sha spells, theoretically he can spell out 9 magical powers. But in fact, even disciples of the upper sect and aristocratic families with complete inheritance often need 4 or 5 spells to successfully spell out a magical power. For example, the Li family's 3rd grade magical power 5 Emperors paying homage to the true sword requires the 5 sword energy spells of Green Emperor Soul Protecting Sword, White Emperor Soul Serving Sword, Red Emperor Yuan Nourishing Sword, Black Emperor Blood Passing Sword and Yellow Emperor Central Sword to be combined together. People from a small organization, like Wang Daoi, have only condensed 2 magical powers, and both are inferior in the eyes of the aristocratic families and the upper sect disciples. And the vast majority of casual cultivators who practice magic at random can't even put together a magical power with 18 spells, and they don't even have the hope of advancing to magical powers. Zheng Qinggan possesses 5 3rd grade magical powers. Even if one of them is temporarily unusable, it is still the top configuration. How can it be considered a flaw? Just as Zhao Chen's thoughts were drifting further and further away, Qi Fimeng's voice pulled him back again. By the way, when sorting out Zheng Qinggan's memories, I got some unexpected gains. I know who is the mastermind behind the Red Gold Mountain incident. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.